Good evening. This is the regular meeting of the Council of the City of Southfield, held here in the Council Chambers for 7 p.m. this evening. We're going to ask that clerk please call the roll.
Thank you. Ms. Seymour?
Present.
Mr. Mandelbaum?
Here.
Ms. Morris?
Present.
Mr. Perkias?
Here.
Mr. Brightwell?
Here.
Mr. Frazier is excused this evening. Mr. Cruz?
Present.
You have 6 members present.
Thank you, clerk. Can we all please stand to the Pledge of Allegiance?
The United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
A fairly lengthy agenda this evening, so we're going to try to, as best we can, stay on task and with the various agenda items that we have moving before us. We have a couple of presentations that we'd like to start off with this evening. The first being the presentation of proclamation to the Southfield Regional Academic Campus, the Trash to Treasure Recognition Day. I think that will be led by our mayor, Dr. Cyber.
Good evening, council and residents. I would like to call up Molly McNeese, who's a teacher at the Southfield Regional Academic Campus, and her students, Torian Barnes, Trinity Carter, Dwayne Johnson, Maurice Rugley, as well as Jasmine Washington is ill tonight, so she can't be with us. Come on over, don't be afraid. I don't bite, but that alligator will. I was over having a meeting a couple of weeks ago with Superintendent of Schools, Linda Wood, and I was stopped into the boardroom, the school board, where the school board meets, and I saw this, and I was just absolutely spellbound by this tremendous creation. So it is an alligator. It's made of milk cartons, and I want to read a resolution to each one of these students and Mrs. McNeese for this really wonderful piece of art. And so as mayor, I am declaring today the Southfield Regional Academic Campus Trash to Treasure Recognition Day on February 29th, 2016. Whereas the Southfield Regional Academic Campus art students, Torian Barnes, Trinity Carter, Dwayne Johnson, Maurice Rugley, and Jasmine Washington, under the supervision of art teacher Molly McNeese, determined to enter the evergreen packaging made by milk carton construction contest. And whereas the students conceived of creating a milk carton sculpture of an alligator to honor the school's mascot and represent the student body's fierce determination to succeed. And whereas the students collected 1,345 milk cartons during the school's lunch and breakfast sessions over a 3-month period, and whereas the students cleaned the milk cartons, cut them out, spray painted the pieces, and hot glued the pieces to make a 16-foot sculpture of an alligator, and whereas the students entered their finished piece in a contest, and whereas Evergreen Packaging awarded them a national first place prize and 5... I'm really proud of all of you. I mean, this is, I just had to have you here tonight. And this first place comes with a $5,000 reward, and it is to be used for the school for a school improvement project. So with that, I now therefore be it resolved that I, Ken Cyber, Mayor, City of Southfield County of Oakland, State of Michigan, do hereby proclaim that February 29th, 2016 as Southfield Regional Academic Campus Trash to Treasure Recognition Day in the city of Southfield and urge all residents to recognize and celebrate the remarkable achievement of Torian Barnes, Trinity Carter, Dwayne Johnson, Maurice Gregory, and Jasmine Washington, as well as that of our teacher Molly McNeese. So congratulations. Here, and we always like to introduce the principal.
Yes, Mr. Eason, please come forward. Thank you, City Council, for allowing the honor of my students and myself. We worked very hard at our alternative high school in Southfield. These are students that fell behind in their credits, and now they're working very, very hard towards graduation. In fact, we have one of the highest graduation rates in any high school in Oakland County with a 98% graduation rate. We at the Southfield Regional Academic Campus pride ourselves in teaching the kids a different way to love learning again. And these students are my advanced artists who not only need a push in their arts, but they work very, very hard in applying to art colleges and working in their sketchbooks every day, talking with artists. And when I told them that the five was going to create a 16-foot alligator, they said, of course, and we are going to win. So I am very, very proud. And know that this week I put them on a new task, and I'm just proud not only of their hard work with the alligator, but every day when they come to school at 8 o'clock in the morning and are in classes and doing their hard work, and I can't wait until June to see them walk across the stage.
Okay. Thank you very much. Good. We have a wonderful presentation, some wonderful students here. I think this is a testament to the story of Southfield and our schools that we all need to continue to tell to let folks know all the good work that we're doing out here in our educational community. So thank you, Mr. Mayor, for bringing this resolution forward. And for your students, congratulations to you.
I just mentioned that the alligator will be on display at City Hall here, not in this room. Good things to do here, but and Mr. Crow's afraid that it was going to bite his head off. This will be in the lobby of the Civic Center for the next month, for the month of March. So if you're watching at home on television, come on down and see it. It's much better in person. Thank you.
Yes, when I saw this in the lobby, I was in awe. I have an art background. I have art, professional artists, my brother and uncle, and this is so beautiful. You don't realize, I don't think you realize what you've done. This is extraordinary. It's stunning, it's beautiful, it couldn't be better. You've just done something amazing and wonderful, and you should be so proud. You won't realize for a long time what you have done here. It's fantastic, and it's great. It's beautiful. You're wonderful. I'm in awe of this beautiful piece.
Did you want to introduce this gentleman coming in?
Oh, we have parents here too, though.
Yes, could I have all my parents stand up? Yay! We couldn't do it without him. Torian Barnes just walked in. He's my future graphic designer, and I'm just really very proud of him.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming this evening. Glad to have you. Mayor, we have another joint resolution for Parenting Awareness Month.
Yes, Council, this is February 29th, and the month of March is Parenting Awareness Month. So I would like to call up a joint resolution from the mayor and council, and I'd like to call up from the Southfield Youth Assistance Organization, Vicki Salinger, who's the chair of Southfield Youth Assistance, Dr. Vicki Golden, board member and family education chair, Paula Johnson, Southfield Youth Assistance caseworker, and Shamira Taylor, the treasurer of the organization. And let me read this very quickly into the record. Again, a joint resolution from the mayor and council. Whereas the children of Southfield are the city's most valuable resource, and all young people deserve the support of a society that demonstrates a commitment to helping children become happy, healthy, and drug-free adults. And whereas the city of Southfield believes that the education of students is augmented by parental and family involvement in their children's education and studies that demonstrate when parents are involved in their children's education, the attitudes, behaviors, and achievements of students are positively enhanced. And whereas parents who nurture, love, and appropriately discipline their children can help them to become better citizens with high self-esteem, who also become healthy, happy, loving, responsible, and trustworthy, and productive adults. And whereas effective parenting involves showing children love, concern, and respect at all times, giving children a safe place to live and play, helping children express their feelings appropriately, and listening to what children have to say, giving children appropriate choices whenever possible, having reasonable rules that are all understood by all, being responsible, and teaching children to be responsible, spending time with children, setting an example by what we say and do, working with schools and communities to make them better for children, whereas informed parenting can help reduce social problems such as substance abuse, teenage pregnancy, unemployment, poverty, and crime, and whereas Parenting Awareness Month is a statewide campaign to promote awareness and education resources through state outreach and local efforts, emphasizing the importance of effective parenting and nurturing children to become healthy and caring, contributing citizens. Now therefore be it resolved that the mayor and council of the city of Southfield County, Oklahoma State of Michigan do hereby proclaim March 2016 as Parenting Awareness Month in the city of Southfield. And be it resolved that we, the mayor and city council, do hereby support the efforts and resources, particularly local, that draw public attention to the critical importance of parenting and encourage further development of parent networks throughout the city of Southfield and the state of Michigan. Signed by the council and myself on this day of February 29th.
I want to thank the board and the mayor for their ongoing support of Southfield Parent Youth Guidance, the Southfield Youth Assistance, and for this resolution. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Next, we have a presentation from Spring Arbor University. We'd like to ask Ms. Jamila Lowry and associates to come forward and give us an update on what the happenings are with regard to Spring Arbor out here in the city of Southfield.
Thank you, Council, for having us here tonight. This is Jamila, and I'm Josh Weimer, the Executive Director of our Southfield location. I'm blessed to be in front of you tonight and tell you a little bit about our story and why we're excited to be in the Southfield area. Spring Arbor University has been in the greater Detroit area for over 20 years, first in Troy and Dearborn, and now in Southfield for the last couple of years. And it's been a real blessing to be a part of so many stories of people's lives being changed through education in the last few years here. I want to share just briefly about who we are and why it is that we care about the Detroit area. And basically for us it comes down to two values that we hold really, really dear, and that's access and transformation. Access has been a part of Spring Arbor since we were founded back in 1873 in the little town of Spring Arbor, Michigan. Founded by the Free Methodist Church to bring access to education to people who didn't have any in this really rural part of the state. And 100 years later, we're facing the same question again, access. But this time, instead of a rural population, it was an urban population. As we looked around the state and saw thousands of people who wanted a transformative Christian education but couldn't get one, couldn't uproot their families and move to a place like Spring Arbor, we decided to bring education to them and branched out all across the state. We now have 11 sites around the state of Michigan and in Ohio, and have been blessed, like I said, to be a part of so many people's lives being transformed in that way. We didn't just bring education out there, but actually revamped our entire curriculum. So we know that even if you have education available locally, you can't quit work and go to classes full time. You need to find a way to work around your daily obligations. So revising our curriculum so that any student can complete their degree just attending 1 night a week, taking 1 class at a time, and still finishing many of their programs in 2 years or less. So in the last 20 years we've been in the Detroit area, we've seen hundreds of people have access to bachelor's and master's degrees in social work and nursing and counseling and business. And it's been great to be a part of the economic vitality of the city. But access is just one piece, and transformation is another. And for that, I think about a person like Sheila. Sheila started our program about 30 years ago when we first launched it in the Jackson prison. That was the first place, actually, that we brought our adult degree completion because we believe that education is transformative. What a better time to have your life transformed than when you're in prison. So she was in prison for lots of terrible things that she did, but in that process of pursuing her degree, something was sparked within her that told her that she could do more, she could be better than she was. So when she got out of prison, she entered a rehab program for a year and successfully completed that program. Went on to get her master's and eventually her PhD. Now she works in the Detroit area in that same program as a director, helping people who are in her exact same place. So Sheila is just one story. There's so many single moms who thought they missed their shot at college when they had a kid early, and now they're trying to balance life and work, and they're able to go back and do it 1 night a week. The veterans who come back with PTSD and think that they can't emerge back into society again, need to wrestle and grapple with that. This has been a safe place for them to unpack their experience and support the community. So we care so much about transformation. We think that a spring arbor education can be part of the economic revitalization of this area, and more importantly, the spiritual revitalization of this area. So we would love to be an even greater part of the Southfield community, a part of seeing this community totally revitalized. So we'd love to share more about those programs. Again, if you'd like to learn more about Spring Arbor, check out our website at arbor.edu. That's arbor.edu to learn more about our social work, nursing, counseling, business, family life education programs. We'd love to continue to see lives transformed and bring greater access to education in this area. So thank you for having us today.
All right, Jeff. So as Josh mentioned, it's arbor.edu is the website, and their location is 26200 Losser Road, right? Right here in Southfield, Michigan, and Suite 100. So anyone interested in further information, check the website or drop in, right? It's part of our community. Absolutely. Thank you. For those who have the agenda in front of them, we will not be having a presentation of the Southfield Board of Review for tonight. We'll move that to a later time. Next is the Historic Preservation Resolution, and I would like to ask if State Representative Jeremy Moss, our own state rep, former councilman, will come up and just kind of give us just a brief update on something as it relates to historic preservation, and I have a resolution that I'll be reading after.
Sure. No, thank you very much, Councilman Cruz. The rest of the council, it's great to be here, Mayor, Clerk. So we had a legislative committee meeting of the Southfield City Council on Friday, and we brought forward a bill that probably is an area of concern. There's been a lot of discussion on this bill, House Bill 5232, which is essentially dismantling the ways that historic districts are established here in the state. We don't have a historic district here in Southfield yet. I know that's part of some of the long-term visioning of neighborhood preservation, of maintaining strong property values, and that wanted to be something that the council wanted to remain in the discussion. And this bill in particular has tremendous hurdles towards creating and maintaining these historic districts. Specifically, it would require that 2/3 of the property owners within an established district would be required to sign a petition. That's a tremendously high number just to even get the ball rolling. Then it would go before the city council. the City Council would approve of this proposed district, and then it would go on the ballot for the entire community to vote on. So one neighborhood wanted to create a district, the rest of the whole community would be voting on it. We don't really subject our zoning changes to a public-wide vote. And then that vote would be required to be renewed every 10 years. So every 10 years on our ballot, we could be voting on a district here or a district there. So it was really a far overreach. I'm working very diligently with the bill's sponsor to bring it back to a more reasonable level of reform, but I did want City Council to be alerted on this, and I know that Councilman Cruz, Morris, and Brightwell, who serve on the Legislative Affairs Committee, had concerns with this, as well did our mayor, and I believe that there's a resolution coming out opposing this particular legislation in its current form, which is helpful for me to be able to advocate in Lansing and say, you know, my own community back home has a strong opposition to this. So.
And of course, we always appreciate representatives coming down and talking to us and communicating with us about things that are happening at the state level that may ultimately affect us here at the local level. And so this being a proactive approach, I guess, in regards to the city to make a statement as it relates to this matter, issuing a resolution in opposition to House Bill 5232 and Senate Bill 0720 of 2016 as currently written. This council,
yeah, it gives me a little bit of leverage to negotiate for a better bill. So if you see me ending up voting for this, know that I didn't oppose your resolution. I support this resolution, but this gives me leverage to actually change the contents of this bill to make it something that we can't tolerate.
Right, exactly. So, you know, we don't have to go. I don't think I have to go through the entire resolution. I think Representative Moss has informed us as much as we needed to know at this point as it relates to the bill. Again, we just want to have something in writing that expresses our concern as a local municipality to be able to reserve the right to designate areas in our city as historic districts. So with that being said, the resolution ultimately reads that the City of Southfield hereby urges the House Committee on Local Government and the Senate Committee on Local Government and the entire state legislature to reject House Bill 5232 and Senate Bill 0720 of 2016 as currently written, and that a copy of this resolution be transmitted to the House Committee on Local Government and the Senate Committee on Local Government, that the Southfield delegation of Michigan legislature and the governor of the state of Michigan as well. So we just want to make sure we express that publicly, that our residents understood that we are looking at these legislative matters, you know, being proactive and not reactive in all instances, and that we're just very lucky to have a legislator, state legislator as Mr. Moss here.
And I can say for the postage, you don't need to mail it to me. I'll just take a copy of it here tonight.
Very good. Very good. Thank you very much. And for our final presentation for this evening,
Mr. Cruz, are we going to take a vote on this evening?
you want to approve this?
Yeah.
Okay, so given the resolution that's been presented, I will ask for a motion to approve.
Chairman, I so move the resolution regarding the Historic District Act.
Support.
All right, it's been properly moved by Councilman Foncasti and supported by Councilwoman Seymour that we approve the resolution in opposition to House Bill 5232 and Senate Bill 0720. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Council, and thank you, Representative Moss. We appreciate you. Again, the final presentation for this evening is coming from our Oakland County Treasurer this evening on tax foreclosures. Andy Meisner is here, and we appreciate him coming out this evening to present before the council. So, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, members of the council and Mr. Mayor, your distinguished members. I'm pretty sure Representative Moss serves with a few colleagues that look a little bit like this guy. You've seen those teeth in Lansing, I think. I appreciate the opportunity to be with you to discuss a few matters of mutual interest. This is a really exciting time for the city of Southfield and its citizens. From the county's perspective, Southfield is really on the ascension right now. Property values have been increasing, which I've followed closely. There is, I think, good leadership from the city, a vision for where the city is going, and the county is very supportive of what's happening here. And my office is really excited to partner with you in any number of ways. And officially, congrats to the new members of the council since the last time that I was here. Thank you for your hospitality. I wasn't going to mention my financial literacy art contest, but in light of the previous presentation, I'm just going to real quickly say that for the last 5 years, our office has conducted a financial literacy art contest with a financial literacy theme to it. We've done so in partnership with the Community Foundation of Southeast Michigan, and any public school student in Oakland County is eligible to participate. So hopefully the kids that made this beautiful alligator will apply, and we offer scholarships up to $1,000. We've given about $40,000 in scholarships over the last 4 years, and they can choose any medium that they want. So this alligator could represent credit card debt, for instance, and then that could be their piece. I don't want to give too much of an easy path there, but I could forget seeing it up here. But it's something that, and I've been over to the high schools to try to promote it. It's for students grades 9 through 12, and the deadline is fast approaching. So if we do know of any students, including the program that visited earlier, we'd love to have their artwork, and we'd love to hopefully give them some $1,000 scholarships that they could take to Center for Creative Studies or whatever program that they get into. Pardon that shameless plug for our financial literacy art contest, but if you go to oakgov.com/treasurer, we have all of the artwork from previous contests in an online art gallery. And I really, and some of the students have been from Southfield, I encourage you to take a look at it. It's really about promoting a broader conversation about the importance of financial literacy. And it's something that we don't all learn necessarily growing up, and so having a conversation about it we think is really important. Another important topic that I wanted to focus on this evening is keeping families in their homes. Oakland County was hit as hard as any place during the foreclosure crisis. And we had tens of thousands of mortgage foreclosures, and we had many thousands of tax foreclosures. And a tax foreclosure is where the city sends out a tax bill. For whatever reason, the citizen is unable to pay the property tax bill in the allotted time. The city then turns that property tax delinquency over to the county treasurer. That starts a 28-month process of interest and fees being added, and your friendly county treasurer reaching out very aggressively to try to get with you and say, we've got this issue we need to resolve. We have been really focused on, where possible, keeping people in their properties. And right now we have over 7,000 payment plans that are active in Oakland County. The compliance rate on our payment plans is 90%. So when people are given an opportunity to do the right thing and to pay the debt that is owed, they do it, and they appreciate having a little bit more time. Now, we managed to keep thousands of people in their homes. When somebody loses their home, it's well documented what impact that has on our tax base and on the surrounding neighborhood. The Joint Economic Committee, which is made up of the senators and representatives, did a deep dive looking at the impact on property values of foreclosure. And when there's a foreclosure, the property value in neighboring properties literally leaches away in excess of thousands of dollars. And then when that property is resold for half, that then becomes a comparable transaction. And that, in essence, is what caused $14 billion in property value decline around Oakland County. We're no longer the wealthiest county, even in Michigan, at this point. We're fighting back. The way that we fight back is by keeping people in their homes. And when that is, keeping them is just not an option because they either walk away from their obligation, which happens sometimes, or it just can't be done, then we're required under state law to offer these properties at an auction. The auction is a very imperfect process because anybody can come up and try to buy it, and we don't always know for certain what's going to happen to somebody buying that property. Now, the properties that we've sold at our auction from Southfield, virtually all of them have sold. I asked my staff where they thought about 85 or 90% of the properties that have been offered at our sale have sold. Why is it? It's because Southfield is an amazing place, right? It's a vibrant community. It's a place of vision. It's a place with wonderful recreation, great schools, and the values here really recovered even better than some of your neighbors. But there are cases where the properties get into the wrong hands. And so I did want to, one, put in a plug for an effort happening in Southfield to try to control your destiny in this regard by working with a nonprofit organization. I've discussed it a bit with Mayor and some of the council folks. It's a good idea. Anything that we can do to protect property values is a positive. Now, the most important thing that I want to say tonight is that March 31st, 2016 is the drop-dead deadline for property tax foreclosure. March 31st, 2016 is the drop-dead deadline for tax foreclosure. So what does that mean? If you or somebody you know, somebody at church, somebody in the parenting group, somebody in the neighborhood, if they have delinquent taxes right now, and they have not reached out to our office, my number is still 421-ANDY. I'm pretty easy to reach. And of course, our office line is 858-0624 is direct to me. If they don't make an accommodation with our office before March 31st, they lose their property. So you go from owning a property to no longer being the owner. It's a serious matter. It's a very serious exercise of governmental power. And so we try to do it with the utmost respect for their property rights. So the most important thing I'm going to say today is I beg of you, citizens of Southfield, if you've got an issue with property taxes, plug into our office. If there's any way to work out a payment plan, we're going to do it. If a payment plan is not an option for you, because maybe you've let it go for too long, or you just haven't faced the music, you still have until March 31st to redeem that property. So working together, we can get the word out. And there is a program called Step Forward Michigan, which a number of Southfield families received that actually paid off their delinquent property taxes, provided that they met the eligibility requirements. We just learned, thanks to Senator Debbie Stabenow and her leadership, Michigan is getting another allocation of hardest hit funds, and as much as $20 million is going to go into this program to help people pay their property taxes. The bad news is the new round is not going to open up until after March 31st, 2016, which means people need to get with their county treasurer, get on a plan, or if I can't offer you a plan, you gotta get solid with the account, clear it up, and get the county treasurer off your back. I brought some brochures that describe the tax foreclosure process. I know the city's got a great website, and if the city can use any communications channels that are available to it to really get the word out, a prevented foreclosure is in all of our fiscal best interest. It's in the best interest of the schools because their kids are still going to school locally, and it just avoids a very destabilizing effect. So I really beg of you, after March 31st, we can't do anything. I can't even accept the full payment. And so it's a very serious situation. We have other resources that are available. Through a partnership with JDS, we have free financial counselors that are available. They can do everything from help you improve your credit score, to build a household budget, to really take control of your money issues before they control you. And that of course can be a very frustrating thing. I think that I will leave it at that. I know you guys have got a busy agenda, and I want to be respectful of the time, but this is just something that I felt so strongly about that I wanted to personally come back to Southfield Council, where I've been many times, and to really beg of you to help us get the word out. With that, I'd be happy to entertain any questions, and if it's okay to leave brochures, I may do so. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Absolutely. Thank you. Those with the clerk, that'd be great. Councilman Mandelbaum?
Yes, not to put you on the spot, and I appreciate the presentation. Do you know how many homes are currently in tax extension in Southfield?
In tax extension?
Meaning they haven't been able to pay their taxes, we've been trying to work with them, or they're delinquent.
So perhaps a family that we're offering a payment plan to.
Yes.
I don't have the specific number, Councilman. I could have that number for you tomorrow.
Okay.
But I tell you that our general criteria is that where there is a demonstration of financial hardship, where there is a willingness to pay, and there is an actual payment, we will want to work with them. There are times when we get parcels where we've worked with them as long as we can work with them, and we're getting into the 5th or 6th year. It's the end of the line on those sorts of properties, and that's a very sad outcome. But the tension point that we watch for is when the amount of delinquent taxes that is owed starts to get close to the state equalized value or the taxable value. At that point, I know that I've got an added pressure on my office to resolve the delinquency, because when I sell it at auction, I need to be able to sell it for at least the amount of delinquent taxes. So if a property becomes underwater from a delinquent tax perspective, I run the risk of a chargeback to the local community, and those chargebacks we try to avoid. We go to great lengths to avoid charging back when we can. Sometimes there's chargebacks, as I know your able counsel is aware. Does that answer the question? And if you'd like, we can shoot you an email with a specific number.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
You bet.
Councilman Brightwell?
Andy, this is a general question, also not to put you on the spot, but how would Southfield rank with respect to other communities in the county with respect to delinquencies? Would you happen to know where we stand?
I would say over the last 5 years, during this whole foreclosure crisis, Southfield was near the top in terms of the number of properties with tax delinquency. Listen, assessments is an issue. And so, if you got that going, but that's the bad news. The good news is that we saw the real estate market in Southfield rebounded much faster than some of the other communities that had more foreclosures. So there was a really nice kind of elasticity to your property values. But the city was hard hit on the tax foreclosure side and on the mortgage foreclosure side as well. But listen, West Bloomfield is another one of the communities that has experienced a fair number. So it's a range.
Okay.
Thank you for the question.
Sure. Any other questions from council? Okay, we really appreciate you taking the time to come out to see us this evening. Folks that are watching today, please make sure you take advantage of the Step Forward phone program if that's something that you need to avail yourself of, or other opportunities. I think just the fact that you're here reaching out to the community, letting us know that you're here to work with us is a wonderful thing. So again, thanks for your time this evening.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Andy.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to, we have a number of appointments taking place this evening. We'll let the mayor start out first with his appointments to the Economic Development Corporation and the Southfield Library Board.
Good evening once again. I'm pleased to come before the council this evening for confirmation of some appointments, an appointment and a number of reappointments. I'd ask that Betty Robinson, if you're in the chamber, come forward. I'm recommending the appointment of Betty Robinson to the Economic Development Corporation. Mrs. Robinson is a longtime Southfield resident, active parent, and school board member, and has had a very successful career in finance and the automobile industry. Then I want to move on to the reappointments of Mr. Jack Pryor to the Economic Development Corporation. Mr. Pryor is here. Oh, good to see you. Louis Poole is Louis here this evening. He is also being reappointed to the Economic Development Corporation. And then I have reappointments to the Library Board. Bernard Cohen, I know Mr. Cohen is here. Can you come up? Carol McCullough, Uni Rose, and Anthony Arabor. I want to note that Anthony is a high school student at University High School, and he is our youth representative to the Library Board. I'm pleased that to reappoint Anthony. He served for the first time this year, and you're in your junior year. Carol McCullough is a longtime Southfield resident and a former librarian, and we're glad to have her back, as well as Mrs. Rose, who's been a super volunteer in our community. Most of you know her. So, Madam Clerk, I'm prepared to have you administer the oath of office to these fine folks.
Are we going to vote?
Yeah, I think we should make
I'm sorry.
I entertain a motion to approve the appointment of Betty Robinson and reappointments of Jack Pryor, Louis Poole, Bernard Cohen, Carol McCullough, Lee Rose, and Anthony Airport.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
let the records indicate that I abstained from the Betty Robinson appointment.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'll let the record show that I abstained also from the appointment of Betty Robinson.
I like the, so moved.
We have a second.
A second.
Nonetheless. So we properly moved by Councilman Mandelbaum and seconded by Councilwoman Morris. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? And we have 2 abstentions.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Madam Clerk, should we do?
hereby swear or affirm that you will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of this state, and the Southfield City Charter, and that you will faithfully perform the duties to the Board of Commissioners to which you were just reappointed to, and for the city of Southfield, County of Oakland, State of Michigan, according to the best of your ability.
We would like for all of our reappointees, as you sign into the role, if you wouldn't mind coming up, and the council would like to re-greet you again. Thank you for your service. Good to see you.
Don't you push it down. Who are you again? Continue that.
Thank you all for the I appreciate again the service to this city is a good price. Next, we're going to have Councilman Mandelbaum, who is the chair of our Boards and Commissions Committee, come forward with some additional appointments to the Board of Review, Administrative Service, Civil Service, Public Arts, Veterans Commission.
Thank you. As I call your name, please come up. For the Board of Review, I'd like to appoint Michael Schnicke. Mr. Schnicke previously served on the Board of Review from February 2010 until February of 2015 and was an integral part of this board. And he's filling the unexpired term of David Cosby. We also want to reappoint Eric Edwards. Mr. Edwards has a background in engineering, real estate, and finance coordinating, and property ownership, and has greatly benefited the Board of Review. We'd like to reappoint on the Administrative Civil Service, Ms. Lightsey. She has experience in personnel, labor relations, training, payroll negotiations, for medical rates, benefits, and consulting. And she currently serves as the Commission's alternate and has been an invaluable contributor to the Administrative Civil Service Commission in this capacity. The Public Arts Commission, we'd like to reappoint Shia Baum. He specializes in finding rare works of art, and Mr. Baum wishes to continue sharing his knowledge and appreciation for the arts by serving on this commission. He was also the commission's first chairperson. We'd also like to reappoint Mr. Philip Lucas. Mr. Philip Lucas currently is a student assistant and graduate assistant at Lawrence Tech University, and he's deeply ingrained in the community through his position as a student engagement coordinator, and feels his involvement in the community and interactions with students can contribute a viewpoint to how Southfield mix artwork and creativity into the Southfield vision. On our Veterans Commission, we would like to reappoint Dr. Rodney Carruthers. He served honorably in the United States Marine Corps and has experience with the American Legion, Veterans of Foreign Wars, and Vietnam Veterans of America, as well as being a founding member of the DCC Veterans Committee. We'd also like to appoint Tyrone Chapman. Mr. Chapman served his country in Vietnam in the United States Army. He was an original member of the Southfield Veterans Commission established in December of 2004. And Mr. Chapman has been a commander in the American Legion for 10 years and also served the City of Detroit's Veterans Task Force. I'd also like to reappoint Gregory Pulliam. Mr. Pulliam is an original member of the Veterans Commission and served his country in the United States Air Force. He has been instrumental in helping the Commission be a vehicle for disseminating information to local veterans. And we respectfully ask that the members are appointed for their terms indicated in the agenda and resolution.
Council, I'll entertain a motion for the appointments and reappointments of Michael Shinky, Eric Edwards, Shirley Lighty, Shana Brown, Philip Lucas, Roger Carruthers, Tyrone Chapman, and Gregory Pulliam.
Also move, Mr. Chairman.
Support.
Been properly moved by Councilman Verkasi and seconded by Councilwoman Seymour. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Thank you very much. Congratulations. Thank you for joining us. To read our appointees and reappointees.
If I could have everyone raise their right hand, please. Do you hereby swear or affirm to support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of this state, and the Southfield City Charter, and that you will faithfully perform the duties to the office of the Board of Commission to which you were just appointed or reappointed to, in and for the city of Southfield, County of Oakland, State of Michigan, according to the Thank you.
Next, we have moving on to the next portion of the meeting, we have the minutes from the Committee of the Whole meeting from January 11, 2016, the Committee of the Whole meeting from January 19, 2016, and the regular meeting, January 25th, 2016.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move the minutes of those three ABC items which were the meetings of the City Council.
Support.
Properly moved and seconded by Fracassi and Councilwoman Morris that we approve the minutes as listed here, items A, B, and C. All those in favor? Yes.
I did have a clarification. On January 19th, the meeting conducted as a committee of the whole, H2, third paragraph from the bottom, discussed rehabilitation. It says there was a consensus to build the three-lane cross-section concept using asphalt. I believe in our discussion, the asphalt is for the walkway and the actual street will be concrete. Is that correct?
That was my understanding, that the asphalt was in the walkway.
I'm sorry, so that should be corrected to read, there was a consensus to what?
That North End Drive needs to be rebuilt to move forward with the three-lane cross-section concept using concrete and the pedestrian walkway using asphalt.
Are there any other additions or corrections to those minutes? All right, so we'll move that we approve these minutes as amended by Councilman Mandelbaum. Again, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Very good. The next portion of the meeting will be the consent agenda. And, we do have a number of items that we want to mention here. And I would just mention for those that are viewing us today or here present today that these items that come to us on this consent agenda are things that we as a council have met on prior to tonight's meeting. So these are things that we're just moving forward without any discussion. So there are a number of major plans that are moving our city forward. So as I read through them, and again, if there's anybody here that has additional discussion, we can certainly have that as of today. Otherwise, we'll move forward. So consent agenda item A is the approval of an expenditure to shorten the median island on Evergreen Road and 8 Mile Road. Consent agenda item B is the council's authorization to release the draft of the Sustainable Southfield Master Plan. Item C is the sale of parcel 762432227015, which is at the northwest corner of Kiefer Street, Hazelhurst. Consent item D is the authorization of to purchase coal patch materials for the Public Works Department. Consent agenda item E is authorization of the purchase of gasoline and diesel fuel through the Mitten Purchasing Cooperative. Consent agenda item F is authorization to purchase truck and camera system for the Water and Sewage Department. Item G is City SNPHC joint effort to acquire and renovate the sale of tax foreclosed properties. Item H is the receipt of bids on printing the Southfield Living newsletter. Item I is the receipt of bids for road material for the Public Works and Public Recreation Department. Item J is the new personnel services contract for the golf professional. Item K is the commencement of short game facility at Beechwood Golf Complex. Item L, the fiscal year 2015-2016 second quarter budget adjustments. Item M, the solid waste and recycling bids proposal. Item N, the proposed extension of the signage and moratorium, the projection signs and moratorium. And lastly, item O, which is the approval of the Public Arts Commission recommendation for the placement of the Boy and the Bear sculpture.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Mr.
I move
Mandelbaum.
that we approve consent agendas items A through O.
Support. Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir. Mr. Gossett.
I would like to discuss G and O.
Are there any other items that council members would like to discuss before we move forward?
I just got a quick question on item A. No.
Well, why don't you go forward with your question?
The question I have is the median that we're going to be shortening. Has the gas station owner agreed that that would help solve the problem with the traffic flow?
He has agreed, and he's also agreed to update his landscape site plan, work with the planning department, as well as agreed to execute a new perpetual maintenance, site plan maintenance agreement.
Mr. Cruz, just to add to that, I talked to the gas station owner today, and he will be submitting to the city a landscape plan. He did not know that this was the short notice that this was coming up tonight, so, but he said he'll have a landscape plan to us within 2 weeks, and it's a total remake of the landscaping at the station.
Any other comments on this?
My only comment is that perhaps on a future basis, I think the city is doing a service to this proprietor. And then in the future, I think we should hold the proprietors to the fire with respect to process. And because my understanding is that we, from a city engineer standpoint, we went through the entire process of informing everybody that this was happening. And I'm of the mind that, you know, that there's a cost to do a business. But I'm going with it. I'm going to vote for the process. But there was some laxity on the proprietor's part for not being present when these presentations were made. And I would hope that in the future we will not bend over backwards like we did this particular time.
We did have a public meeting, all the parties were notified. The record indicates that this particular property owner was not able to attend.
I'm aware of that. And that's what I'm really, because if we do our part, they shouldn't come back to us if you're not doing your part. And, well, I'll just leave it at that. But I'm perturbed by this particular process that we on the hook for this.
Okay. Any other comments on any of those matters?
Do you need a new motion to exclude those two items?
Yes.
Which ones are we discussing? There was supposed to be no discussion other than G and O.
G and O, right.
We were on A, so.
That's just a question on that.
Yeah. There was a motion for everything excepting for G and O.
So we approve those, and then we go back to G and O. Yes. All right. So we have a motion to approve the consent agenda items A, B, C, D, E, F, H, I, J, K, L, M, N. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So that leaves us with items G and O. Mr. Picassi, item G.
Yes. Last meeting, we discussed the Southfield Nonprofit Housing Commission's partnership with the city of Southfield to acquire properties that may be available by the Treasury County and try to acquire those that are that we felt that we could renovate and sell. My concern is that we have been in the past, we purchased homes that were foreclosed, and I don't believe that it was handled honestly in a manner which they were fixed and sold. We ended up getting a real estate company to come in and to sell some of them. Some of them we come up pretty good on, some of them I don't know about. But anyway, I'm concerned when you're talking about $1,500,000. I'd like to know in this partnership who's going to be accountable and who is going to be accessible to keep us tuned in as to what is happening. Because I think that we are stretched to the maximum as far as things that we have presently on the table, and noting that we don't have sufficient employees to deal with any more than we already have paid off. And I'm just wondering, when we do take these properties, who is really going to be accountable, who's going to administrate it? You know, in business, and I'm in that type of business, you know, we have meetings at least once a week. Everybody has to come up with where are the projects at, how many are finished, how many aren't, is there any difficulties, so that we can together work on solutions to make this thing work. I don't see that in the presentation the other day, and I see it on the agenda tonight. And it concerns me that even though that the person who acquires it doesn't have the same, doesn't have to have the same down payment or the manner in which the money is put down, is more latitude, more in dealing with the purchaser. But it still could be up to, you know, 50 homes, or 50 properties. It doesn't necessarily mean homes. Could be commercial, could be condominiums, could be vacant land, and single family. I am absolutely in favor of fixing the homes that are foreclosed on and are at tax sale that are in our neighborhoods, to straighten our neighborhoods. But at the same time, we don't deal with it professionally and get it done in the right manner, we're going to hurt a neighborhood more than we're going to help it. And so I just want to bring that up. That I feel very strong that when we take on something like this, we have the ability to do it. We have the sources online, and I really don't see those questions that I have answered.
I would probably somebody if you could maybe speak to some of Councilman Cassie's concerns.
This is a program we're putting together, working with the Southfield nonprofit to form a joint venture. I'll be candid, there are still deals, there are still items within the joint venture that we do need to work out. However, this is in response to, when you look at the last 3 years worth of tax foreclosed properties, some of these homes never had inspections, immediately became rentals. The majority of them have been placed into the rental stock. This is a preemptive strike to put together a vehicle and a conduit that will allow these homes to be moved forward to owner occupancy. We're in a unique position that the Southfield Nonprofit Housing Corporation has agreed to capitalize the initial acquisition. Under Michigan law, it is the city that has the right of first refusal after the state. So the city has to exercise that right. The preliminary discussions have been, we have, you know, for example, Habitat for Humanity has agreed to work with us in vetting the various contractors on this project. The city of Hazel Park has recently, ran, I believe we're now in their 3rd year of running a similar type program. And it's really aimed at putting the homes back into owner occupancy. They're required, they're renovated, they're brought up to code, sold at fair market with no income restrictions on who buys them. So, you know, for example, one of the challenges we had on the HUD-sponsored neighborhood stabilization program is we turned down plenty of families that were over income. With this program, we won't have that hanging over, those requirements hanging or associated with the program. We still have to work out things like who will be handling the bidding and that, but based on preliminary conversations with Habitat, they have a plethora of vendors and contractors who are willing to step up, take things through a bid process, and make those repairs. The actual repairs will be financed by the Southfield nonprofit, as well as the carry costs associated with it. And then as the properties are sold, you'll have a residual income, a recycled dollar coming through that program. The volume is a good sized volume, and that's why we think bringing in other partners like Habitat. And there have been some discussions with some other people, but as we go through that, you know, these properties will initially come to the city at some point late June, mid-August. We'll immediately go through an evaluation of every property to make some type of assessment. We'll look at building records, code records, and then we'll make decisions of which ones will opt in to acquire a tax foreclosure or the minimum bid price. Yes, like any partnership, there's still things that need to be worked out. But you know, I candidly believe that this is a very proactive response. What I've heard the council identify in their visioning session on December 4th was that our housing stock and encouraging more home ownership, more home occupied homes was a goal. Bringing renewal into our neighborhoods, causing that investment, and that's what this program is aimed at, you know, the mission and the goal of this program.
And just another point of clarity, at this point, this is not going to cost the city any money on the front end.
This is, the seed capital is not coming from city money, but it is coming from money from the Southfield nonprofit. And we're incredibly fortunate, the work that that body has done the last 5 years to put the city in this type of position. I sometimes use the term that the Southfield nonprofit is an alter ego of the city, and you know, for those who, if you looked at Richard Floridian or you know any of the books that have been written on modern community and economic development, you're strongly encouraged to have a couple of community nonprofit corporations that are taking the lead. Much of what we see happening in Detroit, Midtown Detroit, you know, they're pretty much all 501c3s and community development corporations taking on these developments and making things happen. And that's what we're looking at, one house at a time, one neighborhood at a time, causing that renaissance to happen and getting the values back up.
Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
It still doesn't answer my question as to who's going to be accountable to make sure that those facilities that because it's not just houses, as I read here, it's commercial properties, vacant land, whatever. Who's going to be accountable to bring council up to date as to how many houses we got, who is going to be responsible to bid? There's a shortage of contractors out there today. Is the market ready to go out there and commit to do a lot of repairs and sell houses, get ready for selling when there's not enough contractors out there? Who's going to be responsible to make sure that this timeline on the housing or whatever we purchase, any nonprofit, who's going to be accountable to it?
The administration would have the lead in it, but at a certain point, we'd probably bring in a project manager of some sort, and we'll put those details together. You know, I'll use, for example, the neighborhood stabilization program. There were monthly reports as well as quarterly reports put on the internet for people to review. And we could come up with a similar reporting fashion for this program. The acquisition, where we're at, bid specs, putting product out there. But we probably, at the right time, and that's what I'm hoping to get with, as we put the partnership together with Habitat for Humanity, they'll come in and they'll handle that project management and that vetting of those contractors to do the work.
Yeah, I guess under that federal program, we had a problem getting the houses done in time, and we had a problem, we had to get an outside builder to take care of it and move them. And I just don't want to get in that same hole again. I think that we have a lot on our plate right now, 2 major projects, and they're not going to be able to be put on the back burner because there's too much money invested. And I just personally think that we don't have a team to take care of this, set aside from what we're already dealing with, it's not going to work.
That team, this is a public-private partnership. As we put it together, putting that partnership together, that team will come together. And I need to speak in reference to the neighborhood stabilization program. It is considered one of the best and most productive in the state of Michigan. You took a limited amount of money, and we pretty much parlayed that money, doubled it. Yes, we had certain properties in acquisition that we couldn't find buyers, but we're down to 1 home that we're still searching for a buyer, meeting those qualifications. The beauty of what we're setting up is we won't have all of those restrictions on us.
And the other I want to, this was not discussed at the committee of the whole. I have no objection to it. I just am not familiar with it. I know John Miller, but who has the funds? Who's accountable to the funds?
I can speak to that. Mr. Percassi. The Public Art Commission is about to launch a fundraising to pay for the Northland Art. And the library board originally had indicated that they would contribute $250,000 from the John Miller Fund, which is now sitting at $812,000. And going back to the library board last week, library board agreed to increase the amount for the Northland Art to $300,000, so that the campaign would be a $1 for dollar match. For every dollar that's raised, the library board was going to take from the John Miller Fund, a legacy fund that's been sitting in the library for close to 40 years. And they asked in return that they would like a statement from the city council saying that they approve of the recommendation from the Public Art Commission. So that's why this is before you tonight.
And there's, as long as you're speaking to this item, there's a little more than just the weight that is going to be pressured on the floor. The size of the piece of art is going to have to be, the interior, somehow someone's going to have to come out. In other words, it doesn't fit. The baseline, the level of the brace headers are below what you can get through the door.
Right.
And so that's what I'm trying to, I guess I'd like to see things at committee of the whole and discuss, somebody tell me what the project's going to be, how's it going to be done, because we already knew that there was a problem, because that was the first choice that we had, was putting it in the library. And then he said that, number one, it would be costly to do that because of the header, and also the weight of the boy and the bear. And so this addresses the weight of the floor, or the bearing of the floor, but doesn't mention about how much it's going to cost to get it through the...
I know Mr. Zorn can speak to that.
Mr. Chairman, we had an architectural firm, D. Colenti Siegel, evaluate the weight of the floor in that, and that floor can handle the weight, as well as the weight when it's put in place. It will not crush the edging on the terrazzo floor. That was the other question. But we've looked at that, and I think we completed that back in November, December, that analysis. But it can hold the weight, and the floor, the edging, that will remain intact.
I'm talking about the header, to get it in.
Well,
that's the so-called cone of the of the library, which is all glass, and unless that header be raised in some fashion, it goes through there, and I don't even know how they're going to get it in. It doesn't show.
The D. Clementi Siegel proposal also analyzed two ways to get the piece of art within the rotunda, and that is, the door assembly, or to take one of the headers above the windows. The discussion has been, and we've not finalized this, but the doors of the library need to be replaced. So there has been some discussion about trying to coordinate the replacement of the doors at the same time, so then to bring the piece in. So we are looking at that, but the door replacement or the windows, but both options were viable, and we have a written report from D. Clementi Siegel to that effect.
I just personally like to have someone tell me, I don't know about the council, but tell me how they intend to get the going there in there, and if the header and the glass of the cone, how that's going to be raised so that they don't get the breakage from the glass. It's got to be a sensitive kind of a project, because there's only so many ways that you can keep the so-called bearing header from removing it until you get it through the door, and then doing it. It's a situation where it's kind of unusual to do. And if the cylinder, I'll call it a cylinder, or whatever you want to call it, wasn't all glass, I guess I would not worry about it. But any weight distribution that is not addressed, we're going to have a serious problem on that. And I guess I would just like to have somebody there at the meeting to assure me that they know what they're doing, and like I said, it's not. It is my first choice to put it there, because I think it's a place where everybody's going to be able to see it and enjoy it. At the same time, I want to make sure that the building isn't hurt by putting it into the facility, and that's my concern. I just want to address that concern.
Thank you. Councilwoman Morris.
I just had a question. I know there's another piece of artwork in the rotunda, the sculpture bust of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., so I didn't know if that there were discussions about moving that, or if there was enough room in the vicinity to have both pieces.
Well, I think the first question is the willingness to put the piece in the rotunda. And then we have done the analysis of how we get it in. I'd be happy to bring someone in from D. Clementi Siegel to go, and perhaps have a study session, go through council with what the two options were. And they felt real confident that the floor can handle the weight, and the report clearly says it can, and that there are two ways to get it in.
So with the Dr. King, I'm saying there's another piece of artwork in the rotunda, and I'm just saying.
I can answer that. First of all, the rotunda is rather large, so there is room, and the library board more or less oversees the placement, so there'll probably be some adjustment, but that has not come up. But I know that they have decided where donations of art go in the library, and others. For instance, outside the auditorium, there's a small bear that they decided to place there, other things throughout the library. So it's certainly not going to be shoved aside or hidden or anything like that. But this is here tonight because late last week, the library board said, we're ready to roll, we're ready to contribute the $300,000 to get your campaign. The brochure is going to the printer, and they want to do a dollar-for-dollar match for each donation. Obviously, we took possession of the art a little more than 9 months ago, And the Art Commission is ready to roll with a public campaign called Free the Bear to get the bear out so that everybody can enjoy it. Right now it's crated up, and the request came back to me from the library board. We would like we'd like to hear the council say that you approve the recommendation of your art commission. So that's why this is here tonight.
Councilwoman Seymour.
Thank you. The bear is going in the center, is that correct? The bear going in the center of this.
There's been some discussion about moving it back from the center of the rotunda so that it's actually facing into the main entrance of the
facing into the main entrance?
Right.
Which I think makes sense, but if you're going to put it in the center, it would look ridiculous. What would
you know, I think what's going to happen is that the library board has asked to have some say in exactly how it goes. They were asking if it could go with the snout of the bear and the boy's face pointing into the library, where you go into the circulation desk. You know, I don't want to micromanage this. I think that you know, we have an art commission that has recommended it go there. The library board is being very supportive and has informed us, informed the art commission some time ago that they wanted it there. It's a place that several thousand people a week will see it. I'm glad that it's going to have a home and that we're going to get it out of the crate.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not finished, if I may. I want to see it, my own personal view of this is see it right in the center of that domed area. And my thinking is it should be, the bear should be, the boy should be facing the door. I don't think there's any potential for affecting the peripheral art, which includes the Martin Luther King sculpture. That's along the outer edges of that. I don't think there's any conflict there.
I'm happy to take that, your report back, your recommendation to the library board.
But
I mean, I agree with you, Ms. Seymour. I thought it would be better in the center, but to move this along, I wanted to just, you know, we need to move it along. We need to start this campaign.
They really ought to, you know what would be a good idea if they do some drawings of it, and somebody can do that, facing the different ways. Because I can picture in my mind that the boy and the bear facing the door as people come in. That makes sense to me. It may not to others.
Right.
And I don't think the Martin Luther King sculpture is going to be in any way impacted, because I would expect planning for the boy and the bear is to put it in the center, not to interfere with the things that are already there. That would, I guess we'd all like to see that. I mean, and I think everybody has a right to have a voice in this. I mean, the council as well as the library board certainly have a responsibility to do that.
I hear that. Is this something that comes back to us, that could come back to us? Terry, if you could maybe speak to it.
Well, I think the first step is just approving the relocation to the library, and then I think we could easily work with the board, come up with some sketches and bring it back at one of your study sessions in the future. I think the timing is important to launch the campaign. As the mayor said, it's been created up for quite some time, and we have received the resolution request from the library board. You have a recommendation from your Arts Commission. It's time to at least start the process of moving it there, and we can come back with some sketches on the interior.
Okay.
I think free the bear. I love that slogan. I think that's got a lot of, you know, draws attention, free the bear. But I would like to see sketches of what these different positions would look like, so that we can not only can visualize. And I think it would be good if we could see sketches of that.
Councilman Burgos?
I'm going to use a term that the mayor uses, micromanage. I'd like to see this moved on because the process is we want to get the approval to do this, to move it. And we have a library board, we have a art commission, and I don't want to get into micromanaging how this thing is shaping all this good stuff. So let's get past step one, and then step two just might be getting sketches. But I think at this stage we're really doing some micromanaging that is unrequired. So I just move this on, and we get that.
Well, I think it sounds like with the discussion we've had, that if it's clear the council is requesting at least an opportunity to see the final product before it goes up, and if that can be obliged, I think we'd be willing to move forward with it.
Once it's done, it can be moved, so we better make sure we get it right.
There you go. Okay. Any other comments or questions regarding items G or O? We do have those two still outstanding. If not, or any further conversation, I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I move that we approve items G and O on the consent agenda.
It's been moved by Councilman Mandelbaum, supported by Councilman Brightwell, that we approve items G and O on the consent agenda. Any conversation, any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll move on at this point now to public hearings. We have 3 public hearings this evening. The first is in regard to zoning ordinance text amendment, GP 1280. That is in regards to public art. The amendment, language is the amendment that will pertain to requiring site development proposals over 1 million be designated and developed to contain public art. Is there any?
Yeah, through the chair, thank you. Council may recall that this item was before them in January at a study session where I did a detailed overview of what's being proposed. I would like to just take a minute to summarize the key points. One, that this would take place for any site development, either new development or major redevelopment, over $1 million. Projects that are $1 million to $2.5 million, 1/2 of 1% to a maximum of $12,500 would have to be allocated towards public art. For projects over $2.5 million, there would be a cap of 1%, maximum of $25,000. Now, the definition of works of art was defined by the council in the ordinance number 1630, and is very broad. So there's a lot of applications of what that is. And works of art shall mean all forms of visual art, including but not limited to sculpture in any material or combination of materials. Painting, all media, including portable and permanently affixed works such as murals and frescoes, photography, mosaics, mixed media, any combination of forms of media, including collages, water features and fountains, and streetscape and landscape features and elements, including signage, lighting, benches, clocks, kiosks, and planters. And if I remind the council that Denso, when they came in for an upgrade with their signs, incorporated art as part of their medium. So there's a broad definition of works of art that can be easily incorporated into many site plans. If for whatever reason the developer doesn't want to partake in this specific item on their site, they could donate their portion into the Public Arts Fund. And then that would be used to fund art throughout the city. Or it could be a combination. If they have an obligation of $15,000 per se, and they want to do $10,000 on the site and write a check for $5,000, that they can do that as well. And there are ways to ask for leniency. This way, this will be incorporated in site plan review and ultimately will become forward to council. And then that you can get recommendations through your Arts Commission if need be, if it's a particular sculpture or piece of art. We would interpret this broadly. Works of art such as paintings and photography could be located in a lobby that's open to the public. So again, it's very flexible. Many of our projects, for example, the DUR project, which was over $40 million, they're already incorporating art. Our overlay development district has an art provision, and in each of those cases, art's being installed. Travelers Tower across the street, install art even without this requirement. So there's a recognition of how art is important to community. So with that, after the public hearing, I'd be happy to answer any questions the council may have.
All right, this is a public hearing for GP 1280, the zoning ordinance again for the text amendment as it relates to the public art requirement on development and redevelopment. If there's any members of the community who'd like to come to the podium, please give us your name and address, and you have 3 minutes.
Pamela Gerald, P.O. Box 155, Southfield, Michigan 48037-0155. My telephone number is 248-346-0439. I'm not sure that it should be required for developments over $1 million. I think if the program is good, it should sell itself. If we can take the time to put such a provision in place, let's amend this provision and say if you are doing a project over $1 million that you're going to consider sponsoring some city events. And the money, like for yesterday's event, which was very nice for the kids and the fireworks was beautiful, that maybe a company might want to consider sponsoring something like that. We have a Fortune 500 company in Southfield, which is Lear. And it's no secret that Lear gave Detroit $5 million for fireworks. What kind of money has Lear given to the city of Southfield to sponsor an event? And if we're going to go that far, then we should add another provision. Anything over $1 million, they'll contribute to an employee's GoFundMe account. So we can raise some money to give the employees a raise, since the city seems to be out of money, but there is such a thing called the Friends and Family Plan. So before you vote on this, let's think about this creatively and intelligently on how we can accomplish all 3 things. Art, sponsoring city events, and GoFundMe for employees to get their deserved raise. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak as relates to this public hearing? Please again give us your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Philip Lucas, 21,000 West End Mount. I'm in support of this for multiple reasons. The Arts Commission obviously been working really diligently to get all the artwork documented and then obviously providing recommendations, which has been very great to see all this work going on in the city. But more importantly, this is just one piece of education in our community. So by providing this fund, you are not only providing education and event funding for different art projects, so you are also providing event funding. So when we do gallery openings or when we provide opportunities for students to get maybe a scholarship or things like that, you are providing funding for that. So please remember that. It's not just for sculptures, it's for everything else that goes with art, education, all the pieces in our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that would like to speak to this matter of this public hearing? Please give us your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, Hassan Jawan, 26595 Evergreen Road, Southfield, Michigan, 48076. I'm here tonight also to lend my support to the public art amendment. I just have seen so many changes occur in our city in the past 5 years. We've got a new road, Evergreen Road, we've got new lighting, pedestrian amenities, crosswalks, benches, trash receptacles, bus shelters, landscaping, pedestrian pathways, bike racks, wayfinding. We've got a new loop on the front lawn, new developments and redevelopments, and all of this within itself is design and artwork. And I think that the next natural step in regards to moving forward is having public art. As the old, for those of us who are old enough to remember the old DIA commercial used to say, you got to have art, and it's definitely something that's missing from our community. I think it would only further beautify our city and enhance, especially the Southfield City Center corridor. Thank you.
Again, this is a public hearing. If there's any other members of the community that would like to speak to this matter, please come forward. Again, please give your name and address for the record.
My name is Fred Bunker. I've been paying taxes for 23 years in this city at 24201 Garner. And I think there's a fine line between one person's view of art and someone else's view of the environment. I'm worried we'll sacrifice more of the environment to put this art on display. Currently, across the street from me, I have the art as spun by the charter school of neon lit signs and 12 buses. I don't know if this is an artistic appeal. Do you believe 12 buses in a residential neighborhood is a display of art? It's never been zoned. The school now, employees refer to where they return the buses at night as the bus garage, which is open air parking lot, where diesel fumes, like I've heard we're concerned about on Evergreen Street, pour out of those buses from dusk till they return to the invisible bus garage. I'm wondering if this is an art form, this bus garage, and when Mr. Crow had a public hearing prior to creating this bus garage zone. Why wasn't there a public hearing before a parking lot was built in a residential neighborhood? Or are we supposed to consider the trash that blows over from that school a reverberation of artwork, since it's often second and third grade homework? It's artful, it's colorful, but in my yard it's trash. And because the school was built intentionally with fraudulent site plans submitted to the state of Michigan, it's become an absolute obvious lack of artistic interpretation in this city by elected officials and staff members alike who built the sewers in 2002 that allowed this charter school to create a parking lot where apparently sludge, black snow, is also part of the artwork displayed in the city. There's no zoning that requires them to contain these buses somewhere besides in the middle of a residential zone. I have to believe it's artwork. And these people are not artists who drive these buses. They accelerate them whenever they're in them. They start them an hour before school starts to go drive to Schoolcraft and back, Plymouth Road and back, dozens of times, creating diesel fumes that we're afraid of at Evergreen, but we're not concerned about on my street, so much so that a fraudulent master plan is being circulated on the web, showing no school exists on Garner Street, although it shows the Eisenhower School that the school board deputy administrator, former, closed. It shows every... I know it is. That's what happens to long-term residents. Their time runs out.
Thank you, Mr. Bunker. Are there any other members of the community that would like to speak to this matter before we close the public hearing? All right, seeing none, we'll consider the public hearing closed.
I'd like to address a couple of the issues that were raised, if I could.
Yes.
Our first citizen who spoke, or resident, or public speaker, was mentioning about funding events and employee contributions. That wouldn't be allowed under the state act. It would have to be a capital improvement that was either specific to the site plan or part of the ordinance that you adopted. Our last speaker, again, brought up the issue of the charter school, and as the council knows, the charter school is exempt from local site plan review, with few exceptions that the engineer can weigh in. But we've had our handful with charter schools. I sympathize with the residents adjacent to charter schools, but it wasn't subject to local zoning or site plan approval. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions the council may have.
Council, any questions on this particular item?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Mr. Manuel?
I move that we approve GP
12 ADP.
Public hearing closed.
Yes, of course. So we've got a motion by Councilman Vanderbaum and supported by Councilman Brightwell to approve GB 1280. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
We'll need an introduction of the ordinance.
1657.
I move that we approve ordinance number 1657.
It's been moved by Councilman Vanderbaum, supported by Councilwoman Morris, that we enact ordinance 1657. All those in favor?
Introduce, not enact.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Introduce.
We're introducing it. Okay. Introduce ordinance 1657. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you. Our next public hearing is GP 1290, which is a special use request of Anthony Cartwright, North American Real Estate, to use the building for general office use, property located at 19485 West 10 Mile Road. The zoning is currently B3, and he would like to use it for his real estate office, which requires special land use. I do have a brief video to introduce. Sure.
GP 1290 is a special use request of Anthony Cartwright, North American Real Estate, to utilize an existing building for general office use within the B3 General Business District. The property is located at 19485 West 10 Mile Road, on the south side of West 10 Mile Road between Red River Drive and Evergreen Road in Section 26 of the city. Subject property, as well as the property to the east, is zoned B3 General Business. Property to the north across West 10 Mile Road is zoned OS Office Service. Property to the west is zoned B2 Planned Business. Property to the south is zoned P Vehicular Parking. With regard to the existing land use, the subject property is currently developed with a vacant building. The site contains 0.28 acres of land with 60 feet of frontage on West 10 Mile Road and a depth of 200 feet. The special use request is to allow general office use within the B3 General Business District. Issues considered by the Planning Department during the review of the special use were standards and conditions of Article 18, General Business, as it relates to the special use request. The petitioner is to implement the recommendations made by the Southfield Police Department's Crime Prevention Bureau regarding site security.
I don't know if Mr. Cartwright is available. I didn't see him in the audience. There is no site plan with this because he's going to use the existing building and existing site. He is going to make some minor improvements by adding some additional windows on the west side of the building, and it's mostly interior improvements subject to building department. Okay. So we're here tonight just for the special land use to allow him to occupy.
Okay, very good. With that said, I want to open this up as a public hearing for GP 1290 for a special request used for the property at 19485 West 10 Mile Road. That's currently B3 to be used as general office use. For those that have something to say as regards to this matter, you have 3 minutes. Please give your name and address for the record. Thank you.
And through the chair, Mr. Crowe, when a person comes up to the podium or the speaking device, we're a speaker. Okay? Thank you. I just want to be clear about the location of this building. Is this building near the original Pancake House and near Ziegman's, or is it further down, midway through the block? Like, I think that's Santa Barbara.
You know the cross streets on that, Mr. Crowley?
It's at Red River. And Red River is near the Pancake House and the spiritual edifice.
Yes. Sounds good. It is, yes.
Okay. Okay. I just wanted to know what time, I know you said this is just for them to occupy, but we talk about what types of businesses will be in this office space, and I just want to make sure that we know that we didn't want any check cashing places and places like that, maybe sneaking into an office building under the auspices of that being an office. And then we want to check and make sure that they're going to put down signage. And then there's some businesses or edifices over in that area that their signs don't meet the Southfield standard. And then lastly, we want to let this petitioner know, since he's not here, that if the MDEQ approves this no drilling or drilling for Southfield, that his office building would be in close proximity of the drilling. So we might want to disclose so that we won't have a problem later on in the event that they approve it. And we're hoping that they don't, that this drilling may or may not take place. Thank you.
Again, this is a public hearing. Any residents that would like to speak to the matter of GP 1290, special use request, please come forward. Give us your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes.
Red Bunker, 24201 Garner. I've been involved in Southfield development, and the absence of a site plan strikes a familiar chord, since it took a FOIA request to finally get the site plans that were used, as I've said many times, to build a school across the street from me. Site plans filled out without a public hearing by elected officials and people who, like I, requested a FOIA to find out exactly what those site plans were. And that gentleman now is in a position where he could help us understand why these site plans are sometimes part of the process, and at other times they're left out totally. Like in the development of the residential property across the street from me, and site plans that indicated there was over 40 acres, when 40 acres can't be found on the master plan currently on Gardner Street. I'm wondering why we can't go back and look at some of these developments that have taken place with these site plans being created by staff members and not being made public at a hearing like this, so we can look and see what it's going to affect in our neighborhoods. I was denied that right 10 years ago when 4 site plans were submitted to the state of Michigan by the Lawrence administration with the help of Administrator Zorn. I have to believe he was in the process of the educated people, along with Mr. Charette and Mr. Hyman, who began this school, and they've all included this perception that the school was ordered, as Mr. Frazier told us, to be built by the state. We need site plans that are accurate and can be depended on, signed off by the heads of departments. Traffic, is this going to affect traffic? Is this going to affect a wetland? Is it going to affect the environment? Those things are on a site plan. Absent a site plan, I think you're going ahead way too unconsciously and without representing residents to your ability. And I apologize for electing the people I have over the years, but the best we could do. And we thought the city would exhibit the center of it all aspect, and yet, like my street, I invite any of you to come over there about 3:30 in the afternoon and see what's going on when absence of site plans are approved by this council to develop property.
Thank you. Again, this is a public hearing. If there are any other residents that would like to speak to this matter, please approach the lectern. Seeing none, we'll close this public hearing.
Through the chair, again, I'd like to try to answer the questions that were raised. As I stated in my opening, Mr. Cartwright would like to operate his North American real estate office. He currently is renting a facility on Southfield Road. He wants to be an owner of property and put a shingle on it, so he has the intent of operating it as a real estate office. Again, the site plan is not required because this was previously approved by the council as a site plan, and there are no changes proposed for the site plan. We will do a cursory administrative review to make sure that the site is in compliance with our ordinances, but in this particular case, there's no physical changes. They do have adequate parking, and the majority of the work is going to be interior with a few windows that are going to be added to the elevation.
Council, do you have any comments?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Perkowski.
Terry, what, to reverse something from commercial to OS, the office, seems unusual to me, especially on 10 Mile Road near Evergreen. There's so many needs of commercial, and we have such an abundance of office space in the city. Can you kind of explain what's going on?
Sure. Well, it's currently zone B3,
Yeah.
which permits retail by right. But office is permitted in the B3 district as a special use. So in this particular case, no rezoning is required. It just requires a public hearing because the change of use and potentially the intensity of use requires us to notify adjacent property owners. Now, we do have an overabundance of office in the city. Many of those offices are grade C or lower, so they haven't been updated. The two areas that we have seen an increase in office use, and the council has seen this as well, and we have one later, is medical office has been on the grow. So where we've had an opportunity to redevelop or reuse or repurpose a building, it's been mostly for medical office purposes. We always have that individual owner who wants to put a shingle out, and this property has sat vacant under the current B3 zoning for several years. So here we have a good match of somebody who's already operating in the Southfield of business, but being a renter, wants to invest in the city by purchasing the property, paying taxes, and putting his shingle on. I can't think of a better way for repurposing an older building that's sat vacant than someone who's committing it with their own dollars. So I think in this particular case it makes sense. It's the intensity of the use is going to be limited to real estate, so there's not going to be the kind of hours of operation that you would find in a retail operation. And the site is very narrow, for all those reasons, we recommend favorable approval.
I understand what you're saying. I'm just saying is that when you do a master plan of the city, you find in your studies that there's a need for certain zoning, and I, in particular, when I drive through the city, I see that we do not have an abundance of B3. And that's the highest you can go. I just don't understand the owner not being able to find an occupant for a B3. If it was something less than that, it'd be kind of easy to figure out.
Again, Mr. Fracassi, I think it's the narrowness and the smallness of the site doesn't lend itself.
Pretty big.
It doesn't lend itself to a lot of retail. It's certainly the type of retail that wants to drive through and pick up. We have, as we discussed with the master plan, we've taken the approach to plan for more mixed use to give us more flexibility. The overlay development district has allowed us to redevelop half a dozen properties under traditional zoning that haven't flourished. And in many cases, we've reduced the amount of planned areas for office for the very reasons that you're talking about, and incorporated more of the neighborhood commercial.
Likewise, would you zone an office building that can't lease space B3 so they may get a commercial user on 10 Mile Road? I guess that's what bothers me about the zoning, is that there's an abundance of commercial. You have, I don't know, it's a series of, you have more individuals looking for commercial places to do business than you have office, because one is plentiful.
And I agree, and that's the nice thing.
B3,
right, it's currently zone B3, and we're not changing the zoning. So should the owner decide to move his office somewhere else, it's still zoned for B3.
I guess I was just going, just in the master plan, I was just wondering you ran into some data that I'm not familiar with where we don't have a need for B3 anymore.
No, what we found is that we have an overabundance of office. We have a high vacancy rate, particularly for the older offices that have shallow lots and don't have appropriate parking. We've got many issues on Southfield Road where the road right-of-way comes close to the front of the building, and the parking is actually in the road right-of-way. And we're gonna need to address that should Southfield Road ever get redeveloped the way they've been talking about it. And some of the older smaller office buildings really haven't been modernized and kept up with the changing times. So for those reasons, that's why we have a glut in office. But you're right, everywhere else has been more of a need. Office is one of the exceptions with a limited larger office or newer office complexes.
It just seemed like that place just worked for him because he already owned the location. So instead of just looking for new places, he already had the spot. So
he said he drives by that every day, and you know, he saw it vacant for quite some time, and it's along his trade route.
Mr. Chair,
yes,
I just add that Mr. Cartwright is someone I met years ago who helped the city greatly during the mortgage crisis. He's been in business here for quite some time, renting space, and the building that he is planning to move into was in very bad repair. So I met him through our realtor tours that we did following the mortgage crisis, and he was among the group of realtors that former Mayor Lawrence pulled together to try to get more people in vacant homes here. So you know, he's got a track record in our community.
Mr. Chairman?
yes, Mr. Gus.
Mayor, I wasn't critiquing the individual who owns it or what he's doing.
I'm just adding something, Don. I'm not just that this, you know, I heard somebody in the audience wonder about a nail salon or something like this. No, I'm just speaking to the business practices of this particular realtor. I don't disagree with anything he said. This is something that's helped us out in the past.
And what I'm getting at is when you do a master plan, you do find whether you have a deficiency of commercial or an abundance of B, and I'm just asking Terry,
yeah, I heard
what does that plan state? What does the data tell you? You know, because that's how you know the city is by knowing what it's lacking, and you provide what is lacking. And if you have an abundance, then you don't improve it. And I'm just saying is we have such an abundance of office that there's a lot of locations to build, to go into an office. I mean, office buildings are going so cheap, especially Bs are going for nothing. And commercial is in demand. So
I can't explain why Mr. Cartwright picked this.
I'm just trying to figure out our planning, planning in
I know
a
it's in bad
master
shape.
plan. I'm just trying to figure out our master plan, what it's going to tell us for future development.
Also, is there any other comments with regard to GP 1290? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Mr.
I move
Madden.
that we approve GP 1290.
Is there support? Support. All right, it's been moved by Councilman Mandelbaum, supported by Councilman Brightwell, that we approve GP 1290 special use request. Is there any discussion, any other discussion at this point? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. Next.
Our final public hearing tonight through the chair is ZR 1329. This is a rezoning request of Yukon Building and Land Development representing the owner, Amvent Holding LLC, to rezone 1.58 acres of land zone P vehicular parking to B3 general business located at 2655 Telegraph Road. The property actually fronts Franklin Road. This is the former Holiday Inn. Council has seen a number of presentations on this. This is to allow them to continue their phase development, phase 3. This also is part and parcel to your site plan B, SP 1335. With your permission, I'd like to just show one video that covers both projects, and then we'll have to act on these separately. The rezoning is a public hearing, then the site plan, you can act after that.
SP 1335 is a site plan review request of Yukon Building and Land Development on behalf of the owner, Ambed Holding LLC, to construct various building additions on property located at 26555 Telegraph Road on the west side of Telegraph Road between Swanson and the I-696 M10 freeway in Section 20 of the city. The subject property is zoned P vehicular parking, pending approval of ZR 1329 to change the zoning to B3 general business and B3 general business. Property to the north is zoned B3 general business and ERO education research office. The properties to the south are zoned OS office service and B3 general business. The properties to the east across Telegraph Road are zoned OS office service and RC regional center. The property to the west across Franklin Road is zoned R2 single-family residential. With regard to the existing land uses, the subject property is developed with the former Holiday Inn Hotel. To the north is the parking lot for the Herb's car rental. To the south is parking and across Swanson Road, an office building fronting Telegraph Road. The property to the east across Telegraph Road is a wooded lot. And the property to the west across Franklin Road is the Christian Tabernacle Church. The site contains 7 acres of land with 324 feet of frontage on Telegraph Road and a depth of approximately 688 feet. The submitted site plan indicates the construction of a 7,320 gross square foot addition to the west side of the hotel, an addition of a covered canopy, and the reorientation of existing on-site parking. Parking required for the project is 481 spaces with 441 provided, which results in the need for a waiver of 40 parking spaces from the Zoning Board of Appeals. The landscaping provided exceeds the amount required. The elevations show a mix of stone and glass. Issues considered by the Planning Department during the review of the site plan were the standards and conditions of Article 18 General Business District as it relates to site plan review. The proposal is in accordance with the Southfield Comprehensive Master Plan, noting Telegraph Road Technology Corridor subarea for this parcel. The petitioner is to implement the recommendations made by the Southfield Police Department's Crime Prevention Bureau regarding site security. And the petitioner must obtain a variance from the Zoning Board of Appeals for 40 parking spaces. 481 spaces required, 441 spaces proposed.
Again, the petitioner is here to give an overview, and then we should deal with the rezoning request first, and then we can talk about the site plan.
Thank you for hearing the request for rezoning. My name is David Dowling with Yukon Building and Land Development, located at 25519 Woodward Avenue, Oilland, Michigan. Phone number 248-541-0200. The property is located at 26555 Telegraph Road, Southfield, Michigan, the old Holiday Inn property. The purpose for the rezoning is to build a 7,300 square foot addition to the 5-story building on the back side of the site, to build a 110 unit La Quinta hotel. Do you want to take it into the front side of the building and through the whole, okay, overview? All right, I'm going to go through the sites. There's page 1, 2, and 3. Phase 1, the Western Premier Hotel Complex is a newly designed entrance. The tower will feature a water feature in the front of it. I can't show that with what you have here. Created off of Telegraph Road, there's a new lobby entrance to the building, which will also have a lounge and a dining area, approximately 2,200 square foot. The tower itself will have 186 king suites, 2 executive suites. On the 16th floor, we propose 4 penthouse suites. There's a workout room also to accompany on the 2nd floor with approximately 2,200 square feet. That's also operated by the Westin Premier. There's 64 extended stay units, which will be located on the 2-story part of the complex in phase 1, along with 5 meeting rooms. Phase 2 is going to be a 9,800 square foot hotel restaurant bar attached to the tower to the back side of the lobby. This will service 3 banquet rooms, a convention center consisting of 17,500 feet, with an entrance from the tower to the rear parking area through the 2-story building. Phase 3 will be subject to the rezoning today. The La Quinta Hotel is going to enter off of Franklin Road. The Port du Jour lobby recreational area, breakfast area, will be laid out in the 7,300 square foot. That will be the new entrance to the La Quinta. Presently, the entrance would be coming off of Telegraph, which doesn't support that building. It will be 2 separate operations. The La Quinta will be one operation, Westin will be the other. The development of this complex requires 481 spaces, keeping in mind that that's using every part of the functioned areas in this building at 100%. Noted numbers generally used are 62 to 65% occupancy ratios. So when we're talking about the lack of parking, we actually have done the parking ratios at their maximum. The odds of having both hotels filled at 100%, executive suites filled at 100%, bars, restaurants, banquet facilities, convention facilities, is probably going to be uncommon. Thank you.
And if I could, I just want to, we wanted to give an overview. We'll be focusing on phase 3, and to allow for that, the new entrance with the executive office, the pool, and the fitness area, it encroaches into an existing area that's zoned vehicular parking. So the public hearing, the first item, is the rezoning from vehicular parking to B3. And that's all we're dealing with at this point, and then we can get into the site plan issues, and you'll get an opportunity to present the facade and stuff at that point.
Okay. So at this point, we want to open up the public hearing as it relates to the rezoning request 1329. If there are any residents that would like to speak to this particular matter, please approach the lectern and give us your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes.
Pamela Gerald, P.O. Box 155, Southfield, Michigan 48037-0155. My telephone number is 248-346-0439. I was in favor of this project a long time ago when it came before council to the city. But I'm reading what ZR 1329 says, and maybe I'm misunderstanding. And I'm also referring to what Sarah Mullally said in the description. She mentioned that it was for various building additions. And then I'm hearing phase 1, phase 2, vehicular parking, 481 versus 441, 40 spaces variant. To be more specific, and you did just say something, Mr. Crow, about zoning and what this particular request is. Am I understanding all of this accurately to say that in addition to rehabbing this hotel, they want to build a small La Quinta hotel in the back of this, and then they need additional parking spaces to do that, and then this is going to be done in 3 phases? can you just be a little bit more specific? What I do like is the fact that you're not tearing down the structure and you're going to keep the round historical structure that's in place, which I really do like that because that was a sight to see driving up and down Telegraph. So can you just clarify additional or various building additions versus the parking spaces and these different renovation phases? Well, I just needed him to answer the one question about the various building additions.
We'll have to respond to those after the public hearing is closed.
Oh, okay, well then that would be it. And I am in favor of it, but I just need a little bit more clarification. And hopefully you will join all the various chambers, because there's quite a few, and that you will be good corporate citizens and support the community.
Again, it's a public hearing. Are there any other comments from the community that would like to speak to this rezoning request? All right, seeing none, then we will close the public hearing. Mr. Crowe, would you be able to respond to
yes.
some of those?
Again, we're only here tonight focusing on phase 3 because phases 1 and 2 are already under construction. They don't change any physical on the outside other than some upgraded landscaping. But I thought it important that the applicant talk about the big picture so the council's informed and the audience is informed. Since the La Quinta Hotel is the existing 4-story that's located on the west side of the complex, that is being renovated. But the current access to it is through the Telegraph Road. They're going to be a different flag, even though the hotel will be linked in with the banquet facility and the restaurants. They wanted their own entrance. They're building an addition to that entrance, about 7,300 gross square feet, to freshen it up, to act as a new check-in receiving office, and they're adding an indoor pool and some other facilities to support that La Quinta Hotel. They're an area that's currently zoned vehicular parking along Franklin, and they need to encroach into that. So therefore, we're requesting a rezoning from the vehicular parking to B3 to allow them to do that. And that's consistent with the existing zoning on the site for the remaining of the parcel.
Council, Mr. Mendenhall.
How much is the new building going to encroach into the rezoned area?
Would you? Okay. This line right here, the corner of the 5-story building, which is going to be the peak that is sitting right here. So if I was to take this and draw a line through here, I would be coming right through this site.
So approximately 50% of the new building is going to be encroaching into the vehicular parking area. They're also adding a significant amount of green space in that current parking lot.
But the entire parcel has to be rezoned, not just portions?
Well, there's different approaches, but we think it's appropriate to rezone the whole site since they're doing major redevelopment there.
I also just think it's a shame they don't think they're going to have 100% occupancy at all times. That would be very nice.
Well, even if they did, as we argued, it's very likely that those patrons that are staying at one of those 3 hotels are going to be utilizing the banquet facility or the restaurant. It's not going to be independent. And we just use the industry standards to give council comfort that they're within, first of all, the 10% waiver requirement, and that it's very unlikely that they'll ever need the 481 spaces.
Councilman Fogarty.
Yes, the site plan committee reviewed the zoning as well as the site plan. It was unanimous among the commission.
Any other council members have any comments as it relates to this rezoning request? That being said, any entertain a motion?
Also move.
Support. All right, it's been properly moved by Councilman Perkasi, supported by Councilman Brightwell, that we approve the rezoning request CR 1329 for the Yukon Building and Land Development. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
We need an ordinance number.
Take up the site plan, as long as they're here.
Yes, I think we should, that would be item B under site plan.
We need an ordinance.
Ordinance number. You got here. Ordinance number
1657.
Also move the ordinance.
Excuse me, 1658.
1658.
All right. You have a support?
Support.
It's been moved by Councilman Perkasi, supported by Councilman Vanderbilt, that we introduce ordinance 1658. All those in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
If we may, could we pull up site plan B?
Yes.
And I'm just going to ask the applicant just to go over the architectural elevations. And if you want to talk about any of the site improvements, it's right there. Let's turn that around. If you could use the microphone, introduce yourself for the record.
My name is Jeremy Ziegler. I am here, one of the designers here for the project. My phone number is 734-497-8520, 103 East Liberty, Ann Arbor, Michigan. So it's going to be easier for me if I step in front. Is that going to be a problem? Do I need to talk to them?
Once you're loud.
Yep.
I'll be loud.
Try. So to try to explain what we're doing here with the architectural facade, we've taken the dated facade, glass facade, and we're adding this stone colonnade. We're also adding a grabbing a solar element to the front to help kind of mitigate some of these. To try to help mitigate some of the sunlight that comes in there, make the building a little more efficient. We've done a lot of work to try to, what you're looking at right now, this is the existing 5-story, wish we had the other tower and the other portion of the building, but as you can see, we carry this stone feature all around the entire front of the building. And then the Quinta Hotel will have its own brick style so that it separates itself from the western. I'm happy to answer any questions you guys have. I know I've said this a couple times now.
The council have any questions for as it relates to this particular site plan? We have seen it a couple times. Councilman Mario.
But this is just informational purposes. I sit on the site plan committee. I cannot recall that would one kitchen be supporting all these facilities? Is that correct?
We have a restaurant area. Each individual hotel has.
Sorry. We do have a restaurant that's part of this building. Each individual hotel will have its own breakfast area and coffee areas, as well as fitness areas. That's 2 separate for both hotels. And the restaurant is going to be its own separate entity, we believe, at
The
this point.
restaurant's 9,800 square foot. It's big enough to accommodate the banquet facility and also the convention center. And the Westin Hotel, where the breakfast facility will be also out of that particular restaurant. It's a full-service bar restaurant.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. I'm just curious. And this is a general question. Cooking facilities, would one cooking location support all 3, or would they have 3 separate cooking facilities?
No, actually, one facility will do it. Now, in the Quinta area, they're going to have a small cooking center within. Keep in mind, that's going to be a separate hotel operated separately, almost as if it's a different property,
right,
but on the same site. So it's self-contained.
Okay.
It will have its own facility to do what minor cooking will be necessary for what they will be providing to their client. The other side of the hotel is a full-service bar restaurant facility, which will accommodate for the restaurant and breakfast area in the base of the hotel.
Okay, that was just go ahead.
Yep, Mr. Mayor.
The new proposed addition, it's a two-story building? How?
It's not quite 2 stories, it's probably about 18 feet. Yeah. And it's an open atrium look, if you will. To the side, there's going to be a recreational facility, and then, of course, the entrance lobby area, and then whatever office components are necessary. The hotel, as it stands today, is nothing more than a set of rooms in a 5-story building. It has absolutely no support whatsoever. It wasn't designed to be a hotel standalone. It was designed to be accommodating the growth of the facility as it was being built onto over the years. Started as a 2-story motel, and then built on the tower, built on the recreational facilities that they put into the center. Used to be a pool in the middle. Then they later built the 5-story on.
And there will still be a path from the building to the tower? There's nothing being closed off on the inside from the existing hotel and the tower. Is that correct?
No, there will be shared facilities, I'm sure. I mean, the operator, even though you're flying 2 flags, the owner owns both properties. So there's some shared communities amongst the condominium act that we pushed to separate the 2 buildings. There's a laundry facility, there's other parts of the building that are shared community.
And if I could, I think, Councilman, and for the public's benefit, you can check into La Quinta independently, but if you want, and you probably get your continental breakfast in the morning, but if you like, you can walk through the corridors into the main restaurant, all internally.
Yes.
That's, I think, one of the questions.
Yes.
Even though it's independent and it has a separate check-in and separate facilities, patrons still have access to the larger banquet facilities and the restaurants.
They do. The buildings are still connected.
Okay.
I think it's an option. Any other questions or comments from the council? At this point, we're on item B under site plan right now, site plan 1335. I'll entertain a motion.
And if I could, the motion to approve should be subject to the rezoning being enacted.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I go with site plan 1335, subject to the rezoning of item C, which is the ZER 1329.
And we also have a recommended resolution with all the conditions.
Okay.
Support.
It's been moved by Councilman Fukasi and supported by Councilman Mandelbaum to approve site plan 1335 contingent upon the conditions that will be set forth under the rezoning of 1329 and other conditions by the planner's office. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can you just put them down for me? Thank you. Our next site plan is site plan 1332, which is a site plan review request of Mark Zimmerman Design LLC, on behalf of the owner by credit union to demolish the existing building and construct a new 3,000 gross square foot credit union on the property located at 26595 Evergreen Road. I have a brief video presentation. SP 1332 is a site plan review request of Mark Zimmerman Design LLC, on behalf of the owner by credit union, to demo the existing building and construct a new 3,000 gross square foot credit union on property located at 26595 Evergreen Road in Section 22 of the city. The subject property is zoned OS Office Service. The property to the north and west is zoned RT, attached single family. The property to the south is zoned RC, Regional Center. The properties to the east across Evergreen Road are zoned R2, single family residential.
With regard to the existing land uses, the subject property is developed with an office building. The properties to the north and west are developed with the Evergreen Meadows condominiums. Property to the south is developed with a parking lot for the Travelers Tower. Properties to the east across Evergreen Road are developed with a single-family house fronting on Evergreen Road and a cemetery. The site contains 0.79 acres of land with 150 feet of frontage on Evergreen Road in a depth of 230.54 feet. The submitted site plan indicates the demolition of the existing building and construction of a new 3,000 gross square foot credit union. Exterior of the building will be a mix of metal panels and glass. Parking required is 23 spaces and provided is 23 spaces. The landscape provided exceeds the amount required. Issues considered by the planning department during the review of the site plan were the standards and conditions of Article 9, office service, as it relates to the site plan review request. This proposal is in accordance with the Southfield Comprehensive Master Plan, indicating the city center sub-area for this parcel. The petitioner is to implement the recommendations made by the Southfield Police Department's Crime Prevention Bureau regarding site security. Landscape treatment along Evergreen Road to match what is being done in the corridor. Cross-access agreement with the owner of the property to the south.
We do have Mr. Zimmerman here representing the applicant, and ask him to do a brief introduction.
Thank you. My name is Mark Zimmerman. I reside at 12875 Moorcroft Court, and that's Plymouth, Michigan. My phone number is 734-358-6607. A little bit of background about Vibe Credit Union. It's actually an 80-year-old credit union. It was founded by the Michigan Bell Telephone Company, and about 3 years ago, it went through a rebranding exercise. And what fell out of that exercise is the name Vibe that has their new name, formerly moving from Telcom. And as part of that rebranding, they also wanted to address the bricks and mortar side of all of their branches. So this is one of the projects that they are targeting. They're currently in Southfield at the moment on Northland Drive, and this is a replacement branch for that building. Like a lot of financial projects, branch banks and credit unions in particular, they're downsizing, basically because of online banking and technology, so it allows them to build a smaller branch. So they're going to be leaving the building in Southfield near Northland, and this fits into the profile of the type of community, the walkable community that they wanted to put a building in. So it's kind of a slam dunk fit for them. They've been aware of this property for about a year now, and so it's been a little bit of a journey, and I'm pleased to be here today to present it. So the building that we're proposing is a 3,000 square foot building. It's steel construction with metal skin interior and limestone actually as an accent. Maximum height is 20 feet at its peak. It has a architectural element that is we refer to as a turret. It's basically an icon. This is a similar building that we've built in Sterling Heights that's been open for since September of last year. So this is the second one of these that we're doing. This one is downsized slightly from the one that we built over in Sterling Heights to accommodate the slightly smaller site that we have to work with here. One of the main things that we're attempting to accomplish is that because of the size of the site, we're downsizing the building a little bit from what we previously built at 3,500 square feet in Sterling Heights. And one of the main things that we're attempting to do is to eliminate we have two drives, two curb cuts at the moment on Evergreen. We want to eliminate one of them, and we've gone for a cross-access agreement with the Travelers Tower to the south of us. So the idea is to generate some synergies between that property and our property. And there's been a lot of discussion about those kinds of working arrangements, and we're in the final stages of having an easement worked out. So one of the main concerns that we had, and very early on planning had us meet with the folks from the condominium, the Evergreen Meadows to the north, because we have a fair amount of existing landscape that's mature, and there were some concerns about how we would be addressing buffering our site, since it's commercial, from their properties as residential. So we had a couple of meetings with the folks from the Condominium Association, and we proposed to replace their existing privacy fence with a new privacy fence, and also put a privacy fence, which currently is a chain link fence, on the west side of the property. So this would be a privacy fence that's 6 feet high on both sides of the property. And then we're going to basically infill the landscape materials that are there. There are a few trees that, one or two of them, actually two, I believe, that are growing into the existing fence. So we'll have to replace or take down those trees and replace with new. We're also buffering the landscape in the area to the northwest corner of the site, where the drive-through is located for the building. We have 3 drive-through lanes. 2 of them are for tellers. One is an ATM lane, and normal hours of operation are from 9 to 5, Monday through Thursday, 9 to 6, 9 to 6 on Fridays, and then 9 to 12 on Saturday, just a drive-through operation only.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, the site plan committee reviewed this and it was unanimous approval.
Yes, it was. Passy, any comments, questions? Mr. Mayor?
I wanted to compliment the architect on designing something that isn't just a plain old box. This is something that has some style, and when I look at this and then I see the tower, the rotunda of the library, I think there's some synergy there. So thank you for bringing us something unique for Evergreen Road.
Thank you, Mr. Grove.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate a comment about the walkability. It's always a good sign when they said that they locate places with good walkability. And to that end, they've agreed to widen the sidewalk in front of their property to 7 or 8 feet to be consistent with our Evergreen Road streetscape. And with that, I would recommend favorable approval subject to the conditions that are laid out in our February 29, 2016 letter.
There's nothing further, Council. I entertain a motion for the approval of site plan 1332.
Chair, I move that we support site plan 1332.
It's been properly moved by Councilman Brightwell and supported by Councilwoman Seymour that we support site plan 1332. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much for your time and for hanging in with us tonight. So that will be our, so we're down to site plan of item C. Final one for the
Yep. Thank you. Our last site plan this evening is site plan 1336, which is a site plan review request of DA Contracting LLC on behalf of the owner, Southfield CHD MED LLC, to construct a 12,656 gross square foot medical office building with the associated parking to be located on Sidwell parcels 2412235, 027, 028, and 29, lot 29. I'm reading all these because it's vacant property. The partial of north 32 feet, also excluding north 32 feet, also excluding east 10 feet taken from Fort Road. Also all lots number 30 to 33 inclusive, including east 10 feet of south lot taken for road, Southfield lot taken for road, lots 34 and 35 exclusive of the east 10 feet taken for road, lots 36 and 37, 38 exclusive of the beginning at point west 10 feet from the southeast corner of lot 38, north 10 feet, then southerly to a point located west 18 feet from the southeast corner of lot 38. Also east 10 feet of south lots taken from the road, Meadowlawn Garden subdivision on the west side of Greenfield Road between Judson and Albert Streets. I think that's the most important part. And we do have, I think the petitioners here, and I will get your boards if you want. I'm going to play a brief video introduction and then turn it over to him.
SP 1336 is a site plan review request of DA Contracting LLC on behalf of the owner, Southfield CHD MED LLC, to construct a medical office building on vacant property located on the west side of Greenfield Road between Judson and Albert Avenues in Section 12 of the city. The subject property, as well as the properties to the north and south across Albert Avenue, are zoned OS office service. The properties to the west are zoned R1 single-family residential. The properties to the east across Greenfield Road are zoned for residential uses within the city of Royal Oak. With regard to the existing land uses, the subject property is undeveloped. The property to the north is a parking lot for the office building next door. The property to the south across Albert Avenue is an undeveloped lot. The property to the east across Greenfield Road is developed with an apartment building. To the west is a masonry wall separating the property from homes fronting Brentwood. The site contains 1.82 acres of land with 712 feet of frontage on Greenfield Road and a depth of 110 feet. The submitted site plan indicates the construction of a new 12,656 gross square foot medical office building with associated parking. The elevations reflect a mix of brick, split-face block, and glass. The parking required is 63 spaces and provided is 92 spaces. The landscape provided exceeds the amount required. Issues considered by the planning department during the review of the site plan were the standards and conditions of Article 9, office service as it relates to the site plan review. The petitioner is to implement the recommendations made by the Southfield Police Department's Crime Prevention Bureau regarding site security. The petitioner is to obtain a variance from the Zoning Board of Appeals for 6 inches of rear yard setback, 24 feet required, 23 feet 6 inches proposed.
If I could, I'd like to make a correction to that statement. There is no rear yard setback required. It is based on the height of the building, and the petitioner took the top of the roof, and we actually measure it midway through a gable roof like that. So there is no variance with regard to the rear yard setback. However, there will be a variance required for the maximum amount of parking. We only allow 20% above our requirements. Otherwise, a waiver will have to be sought. And with that, I'll turn it back to the applicant to address those issues and others.
Give us your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, Brad Clintworth, 28575 Greenfield Road, Southfield, Michigan. Tonight, we're here seeking approval of our medical office building. The said building is for a client. Obviously, it's on the plans. It's Beaumont Hospital. It's their center for child health development. The building is a single-story residential-looking building, which was trying to keep in harmony with the residents to the west of the property, trying to keep the site lower. We could build 2-story office there. We kept it at 1 to try and appease what we know would be pushback from residents to the west. In fact, the gentleman came in tonight and said, next to me was the neighbor behind, and went through the plans with me sitting there and was very happy with what he saw. So he and his next door neighbor, it's the first I've heard of anybody from on this project, speaking about whether in favor or not in favor, but he was just concerned that the overall, what was going to be done. So he left satisfied that we didn't have to stay here till 10 p.m. to go through that. But we do have a extensive parking requirement from the tenant. It was mandated in the lease that we provided 90 spaces for this use. Those spaces are required due to the number of employees and treatment rooms, exam rooms that they operate in the facility. Just to run through that quickly, there's about 38 full-time employees. There's 2 pickup and delivery spaces. There's 18 possible waiting room spaces, 22 exam therapy and counseling offices, and there's classrooms, there's 4 classrooms and 1 gym that was a possibility of 10 patrons at a time. So that brings it to the 90 requirement. You know, this ordinance was recently changed. This recently, before the ordinance change, would have been in compliance with the old ordinance. The medical office is a tough thing to judge, and how much parking should be there or not be there. So in this case, we have an actual use, we have an actual plan that shows what's going on inside the building. This is an existing facility down the road in Berkeley that they're relocating to this location and expanding. They do know their requirements, and the requirement is a need of the building. As much as I'd love to pave less and put less underground detention in the ground and store less water, etc., I'm bound by this requirement, and I'm happy to share that if need be. With that said, I can answer the questions that you have about the project and materials, etc.
Councilwoman Seymour, you're still
Yes,
here.
I attended the site plan committee meeting when this was presented, and because I live nearby, I'm very aware of what the residents have been concerned about over. I'm not in the immediate neighborhood down the street. And there have been a lot of issues in the past over things being too close to people's backyards and being able to look in their windows. I'm sure you've heard all of this. This seemed, I guess what I want to say to you is, have you met with the residents in the area specifically to hear their concerns?
I have not been approached. We did.
Did they attend the site plan committee meeting?
Actually, when Brad mentioned
the planning commission.
There's been no residents that have attended any of our meetings. This was the first tonight that a couple of residents showed up. I can remind the council that part of this land acquisition included the council selling city-owned parcel, and there was a stipulation that the building be no more than 1 story to prevent a 2-story office building that could look down on residential.
That was the
and there is a 6-foot screen wall that's also required.
Okay.
So that does address some of the neighbors' concerns.
Those were concerns.
Not to jump, but we were pretty surprised that we hadn't heard. This process is sort of a long process for getting through, and we found, because we're going to have to go put fence along that property line, we've gone door to door and knocked on three of the doors are vacant at the current moment, 2 are for sale, and then 3 more are occupied that we can judge. So the gentleman that came here tonight and handed me his card, I handed my card to him. He and his next door neighbor, he came represent his next door neighbor, but we're very happy about the low building, the not having a 2nd story for people being able to
looking into their yards and into their.
And he was concerned with the visibility out of his house, looking up, that he wasn't going to look at a building.
Right.
And so
I was at the site plan committee meeting and I heard the discussion, but that was such a big issue in the past. I mean, it really discouraged a lot of people that wanted to build there because they wanted two-story buildings, and that was the problem. So I'm pleased to hear that we're finally going to have something that the residents are happy with. So that's it.
Thank you. Any other comments? Yes, Mr. President.
Brad, why don't you show the console, because I thought it was interesting, really interesting, is the south parking lot, your water retention system there. It's on the other one, I think. Yeah, the south end. Actually, underneath that parking lot is what?
Yeah, this, so this section here has got, actually has 450 lineal feet of underground pipe that we store the storm water from the site in and release it to a combined sanitary storm system at an allowable rate, which is very low. These sites are challenging because of the size of them and the depth, narrowness, etc. You see a lot of sites with the open retentions and things like that. So how to accomplish all this and make it work is always a challenge. And we have fully engineered the site. We've actually submitted that to engineering for final approval and anticipate that shortly, judging that we get site plan approval.
I might add that, Mr. Chairman, that the site plan committee unanimously approved it.
Yes, we did.
Parking is where? On Greenfield as opposed to behind, right?
Yeah, the parking is to the north and south of the structure.
Oh, all right, right.
This is the residential over here.
Right.
And this is Greenfield.
I know. All right, on the two ends, parking is on the two ends?
Correct.
Any other comments?
I sat in on the site plan committee, and this is just a general comment. I was in a newly elected officials seminar all past weekend. I utilized your 100-year storm retention as an example of what was going on in Southfield. That's not about anything, but I know that the basic site plan, we approved this, as Mr. Picasso indicated. It was fairly instructive to me with respect when I was set through this process.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move site plan, what's the number on this one?
1336.
1336.
And if I could ask a friendly amendment, subject to our recommended conditions.
And as the chair stated, I'll add that to my motion.
Support.
Been moved by Councilman Perkowski, supported by Councilman Mandelbaum, that we approve site plan 1336 with the recommended, what is those? Conditions, I'm sorry, I can't read my own handwriting. As it relates to this project. Mr. Mandelbaum, you had another statement before we take a
Just
vote.
another quick question, and I'm sorry if I missed this. What is dividing the building property and the homeowners?
6-foot wall, masonry wall.
And is it a specific color, or is that not determined by us?
Well, I'll let you address that, but we typically, it's got to be brick face or brick imprinted. And we like to look at what existing conditions there are. If there's other existing screening walls, we try to match that. In some cases, if the neighbors come out and ask for some type of other type of alternative fencing, we'll address it at that time. Do you want to address, Brad, what you're proposing?
Well, we have about 712 feet of wall, and there's about 400 feet of existing brick imprinted masonry wall that's in place, which is it's off-white, kind of, if you go up and down Greenfield, there's a ton of it that's there. So it's, as the gentleman that was here, he has the brick wall in place, so with his neighbors, they're hoping that that stays existing, which it can, and it meets the criteria. So our goal will be to match that at the neighbors next to, that don't have it. Most of them are falling over wood fences at this point. There was one fence to the far south that was relatively new, that was a vinyl fence that we may have to work with him to possibly take down his vinyl fence and put the brick wall up, and then put his vinyl fence back up in front of the brick wall. We've done that in the past at other sites. But so the goal would be to match that brick imprinted wall.
So we have a motion by Councilman Perkowski, that was seconded by Councilman Mandelbaum to approve site plan 1336. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much for hanging in with us tonight. At this point, we're going to move on to our communications portion of the meeting. First, request for recognition is Ms. Pamela Gerald. Please come to the podium. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, President Pro Tem. You're doing a wonderful job. And Mr. Frazier, just giving a shout out to you. I hope you're watching and I hope your wife is recovering well. Pamela Gerald, P.O. Box 155, Southfield, Michigan 48037-0155. My telephone number is 248-346-0439. I'm not here presenting what I'm going to present and then ask you a couple of questions to clarify, but I was on the site of Councilwoman Morris's nonprofit organization, and I happened to come across this flyer here about the youth basketball program. I see on the flyer here that it says that this has been going on for 16 years. What I'm concerned about now, and I see Southfield and I see Southfield Parks and Rec along with your nonprofit. I want to know the connection. What is the city of Southfield doing for this particular youth basketball program? What is Parks and Rec doing? Are they putting up any money for this? And what is the benefit? I think now with you being on council, you might need to be a little bit more careful. And maybe if you're gonna do something like this, maybe check with legal, because we had a previous pastor on council and there was a lot of things that she did that were a conflict of interest. And you just have to, I think, really be careful when you're in the faith-based business. So if someone can answer, or if you may want to answer through the chair, what is the connection between Southfield, Southfield Parks and Rec, and your nonprofit organization? And is there a monetary gain for your nonprofit? And is your nonprofit paying for Beachwoods? Or was it donated? And that's it. And that's just being respectful. I just want to know the connection and just make sure that we proceed with caution like this. You don't want to give someone the impression that you're using your position with the city to further your cause outside the city. So I'm saying that in a very respectful way, and I want that to be noted on the record. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have a request for recognition with Mr. Gerard Mullen. Again, please give your name and address for the record and have 3 minutes.
Gerard Mullen, Post Office Box 155, Southfield, Michigan 48037. Mr. Chairman, tonight I'd like to talk about the dispute between the City of Southfield and Word of Faith regarding the church's proposed oil well. Our mayor at the recent MDEQ, the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality public hearing, tactfully stated that this dispute is a family dispute. I believe it's more, much more. That is a struggle between good and evil for the soul of the city. The critical question facing the city is this: is Southfield going to continue being a city of progress, or is Southfield going to be a city of deconstruction? That is the next Southwest Detroit, the next industrial hill. The answer to this question most likely will be determined by you, the citizens of Southfield. Let me explain. The MDEQ will likely approve this permit because this agency has a history of rubber stamping permits. If and when the MDEQ does approve of this permit, the ball will now be in the city's court. The case law for this type of case is against the city. For example, in 2001, the city of Farmington Hills lost an oil drilling lawsuit that cost Farmington Hills close to $1 million. If the city can't save the day, who can? The answer is you, the citizens. Since January 17th, 2016, Skip Davis has been heading a group of citizens called Stop the Drilling in Southfield. This group has been picketing World of Faith for the last 7 Sundays between 9 a.m. and 10:30 a.m. 90% of life is showing up. This city needs you, its citizens, right now to show up each and every Sunday at Word of Faith until this issue is finally resolved. I urge every able-bodied citizen within the sound of my voice to join this protest and thus encourage the parishioners to seek another church home. If enough parishioners leave Word of Faith, hopefully this will bring enough economic pressure on the church to stop the drilling process. Thank you.
Thank you. And next we have a request for recognition from Helen Place Spotzer. Is Ms. Spotzer here? If not, we can move to our next request from Mac Terrio. Please give your name and address for the record, and we'll have 3 minutes.
Matt Terrio, P.O. Box 336, Southfield, Michigan 48037. I'm a resident of Southfield. I suppose you've heard enough about the oil drilling. I want to give you another look at it from a different point that has not been, to my knowledge, discussed. While it goes without saying that nobody wants an oil well next door to them, that's not what's happening in this case. I realize Word of Faith is all residential, but look at it. Is it? 110 acres. That's bigger than half the farms in the state of Michigan. Northland, that's 114 acres, about the same size. Those, excuse me, to those that are opposed to the drilling while comfortably driving around at $1.50 a gallon gas, do they ever wonder why that is? I can tell you why. We are awash in oil due to new technology, new discoveries, etc. I'm old enough to remember the Arab oil embargo of the 1970s because we supported Israel. You waited in line halfway around the block to get your 5-gallon limit of gas, and you were glad to get it at any price. I wonder if these people have ever seen an oil well. And I don't mean the Hollywood version of some big high tower with oil gushing out over the top, and some poor hapless hick standing below it with a big floppy hat and overalls with his arms stretched out, crying with joy as he is drenched with oil. That's Hollywood. When the drilling rig is taken down, you have a well about the size of a truck. No one is going to even see it where this is proposed to be. And I resent people calling Word of Faith evil. Word of Faith, as far as I know, does good work, and I hope that they thrive and prosper. Take a drive up north on I-75. Look around you, you see farms and their barns, and out in the middle of a cornfield is is an oil well. Is Rochester degraded because they've got an oil well there? Of course not. Is Farmington degraded? Of course not. I resent these protesters who are not even residents of Southfield standing out there with their signs. Enviro geeks of every stripe and sort.
Your time is up, sir.
Thank you. In closing, thank you again.
Next up, we have Mr. Harmon Guthrie.
Harmon Gunther, 1901 Green Spruce, Southfield, Michigan, 4876. I'm proud to say I'm a member of the Commission on Senior Adults, since I'm old enough. And I came here to praise our Human Services Department. Ms. Terry and her co-worker, and unfortunately there's only two of them, have done a fantastic job for providing social work services for residents in crisis for over 4,750 families. They have given out food, clothing, taken care of numerous inadequacies that other agencies can't handle. They are literally the lifeblood of many families here in Southfield. We are in need of more help. The senior adult advocate that worked for them resigned, but we need somebody else. We have several openings on the commission, one of which is we've had a hard time filling, and that's a doctor from one of our hospitals. We do need a geriatric doctor to advise us on our age limits. Southfield has a distinction of having more senior citizens and increasing in number than we have students in our schools. That is going to be more and more coming up in the next couple of years. We need more people like Ms. Terry and her staff to guide us, to advise us, and just, punch over this. It is imperative that the work that they do continues to be done. As the master plan is more walkability for our seniors, more I lost the word. Okay, thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Very good. That ends our communications portion of the meeting. Council. Any council members have any remarks about the meeting?
Mr. Chairman, I have two items.
Yes, Mr. McCarthy.
First of all, I would like to extend our sympathy to the family of Robert Rosenthal and the employees of the Lear Corporation. Mr. Rosenthal was with Lear for 40 years and led the company as its CEO for 11 years. Those 11 years were the most difficult for the automotive industry, especially the manufacturers. He brought the company out of bankruptcy and moved Lear headquarters to Southfield. Today, they are the 7th largest manufacturer in Michigan. Lear brought new life to the Southfield Tech Corridor and global recognition to our city, and he'll be dearly missed. Thank you very much for allowing me to do that, because he was, between him and the predecessor, they just worked hard to bring this corporate persons and businesses to Southfield. The other thing I'd like to, kind of on a lighter side, is that last Friday night, one of Southfield Christian's basketball players, he's been with Southfield Christian, started out in the 6th grade. He now is 6'5" guard. But he just became one of 12 in Michigan history to have 1,000 points and 1,000 rebounds. And that is a history for MHSA, the Michigan High School Athletic Association. That is a record. And that record is, there's only 12 in 50 years that have accomplished this. And so we're very proud of that. He did live in Southfield and moved out some time ago. But like I say, we're very proud. He's heading for the state championship now. And I think Terry would like to hear this. He doesn't play baseball, but they found out that he throws lefty, pitches lefty, and throws 88 miles an hour. And they're trying to convince him to play some baseball. So anyway, that's for the future. I think Tanya knows part of that team as well. They played for the basketball team that she has, her dad has worked with. So, but anyways, that's quite an achievement for a young man. That's it.
Thank you. Godspeed. Any other council members?
I just want to comment on Mrs. Gerald's comment. I'd like to respond. Thank you so much for your comment and your concern about integrity in public office. And just for the record, the junior MBA program has been in existence for 16 years now. We have never received a dime in payment from Southfield Parks and Recs. We pay facility lease rental for the gymnasium. And like you said, we do, most of the kids on the varsity and JV have gone through the junior MBA program at Southfield Christian. So we're really excited about our partnership with the city of Southfield and any other volunteer programs that the Parks and Recs have had. We volunteered and assisted in helping support. So thank you for that.
Just a couple shout outs to some things that are going on in the city. When we opened up Evergreen Road in the fall, we wanted to enhance the roadway and the street even more by adding banners to the light poles. And starting with the Martin Luther King weekend that coincided with our event that we had here in City Hall, we hung banners recognizing this great man. One of the banners had his picture, the other side had some quotes, and we left them up the entire month of February in honor of Black History Month, and I thought that it was very appropriate. I've received many compliments on those banners as well. If you drive through at night, you'll see the LED snowflakes that are on the poles, another enhancement into our Evergreen Road project. So thank you to those city employees who created the banners, hung the lights, and are going to continue into the spring with new banners, which I don't know what they are, but I'm looking forward to seeing those. Southfield also recently had a water drive to help the residents in Flint, and it proved very successful. We collected 461 cases of bottled water, multiple gallons of water, infant formula, and diapers. So a big thank you to our Human Services Department that coordinated the community effort, and to the numerous Southfield residents, businesses, employees, and community groups that participated in the water drive. The donations were delivered by our Public Works staff to the Catholic Charity Center of Hope in Flint. And if you're still interested in helping, you can, it's never too late. You can call our Southfield Human Services Department at 248-796-4540. Our Human Services Department is also having an emergency food assistance program on March 9th for income-eligible families. Wednesday, March 9th at 9 a.m. at the Human Services Department. That's on Berg Road, corner of Berg and Civic Center. And for more information, you can call the Human Services Department, again, 248-796-4540. I also want to thank all the residents who attended the DEQ public hearing regarding the drilling. Southfield High School auditorium was filled to capacity. And it's one of the things I love about the city is that when there's an issue, whether you're for it or against it, you come out and voice your opinion and be part of the democratic process. It's always It's always nice to see a great turnout. In continuing helping others, the city's having a Red Cross blood drive here in the pavilion on Thursday, March 10th from 8 to 2. Feel free to sign up online, or you can walk in and hopefully they'll have some space for you. The last point I just wanted to mention was yesterday we had a wonderful Leap Day Festival. I was here and I attended with my family. My 2-year-old son definitely loved the fire trucks and the inflatable bounce houses they had, to the point where we had to physically drag him out of the fire truck. He did not want to let anyone else sit in the driver's seat. And then the fireworks was also very nice with the warm weather. It almost felt like it was a cool summer night with July 4th fireworks. I did receive a very short email, I know it's getting late, about that. I did want to quickly read it. It states, Dear Councilman Mandelbaum, my family had a wonderful time at the Southfield Leap Day Festival. My kids learned what to do in case of a fire and were able to get their faces painted. They played the games and had a good time in the moon bounce. It was also the first time some of my children saw fireworks, and it's generally too late in the summertime. Thank you very much for your continued support. And also, the thanks really goes out to our Parks and Rec Department, our police, fire, EMS, the library, all the other city departments that came out and did a wonderful job with the event. It truly was a nice showing, and thank you very much to all those employees. Have a good evening.
Thank you, sir. Any other council members have any other comments? Council portion. If not, we'll move on to the mayor's portion.
Given the hour, and I've already had several speaking opportunities this evening, I will cut my remarks very short. I did want to acknowledge that, as Councilman Mandelbaum has already indicated, that we had a full house at Southfield High School. And I appreciated all the people that came out to express their views, get their questions answered. And I did think, although we didn't exactly hear what some of us had hoped to hear from the DEQ, they did give an informative PowerPoint that was enlightening as to the process should a drilling permit be issued. And our festival yesterday was very well attended, and like Councilman Mandelbaum, I was there. It was good to see all the families out, and I know the kids had a ball. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moving on to the administration portion of the agenda. Mr. Zorn, we have an item here, the establishment of the Pilot Neighborhood Enterprise Zone Program.
Yes, sir, thank you. At the February 12th Neighborhood Services Committee and the February 22nd regular council meeting conducted as a committee of whole, we outlined a strategy to establish and implement a neighborhood enterprise zone program pursuant to Public Act 147 of 1992 as amended. The Act provides a residential tax abatement for certain taxes paid on residential properties within the zone. The Act requires that subject properties cannot have a true cash value greater than $80,000 per housing unit. The zone must consist of 10 contiguous parcels. Total acreage of the zones cannot exceed 15% of the total acreage contained within the boundaries of the city. Total acreage of the neighborhood enterprise zone containing only homestead facilities under this Act shall not exceed 10%. When we presented to council at the Neighborhood Services Committee, we proposed essentially a zone that would make up, would rely in 4 different sections of the city. The first is in section 34, which is north of 8 Mile, east of Lasser Road, south of 9 Mile Road, and west of Evergreen. The second section is in section 35, north of 8 Mile Road, east of Evergreen Road, south of 9 Mile Road, and west of Southfield Road. A section of the northeast corner of section 13, bound by Catalpa, and east of Everett, and south of 12 Mile Road, and west of Greenfield. And the westerly portion, the easterly portion of section 12, bound by 12 Mile, Everett to the west, south of 13 Mile, and west of Greenfield Road. At this time, I'm asking council to adopt the following resolution. That council authorize the preparation of an ordinance to amend the city code by adding a new chapter titled Chapter 141, Neighborhood Enterprise Zones. 2, that council request the planning commission make a finding that the proposed neighborhood enterprise zone is consistent with the neighborhood preservation and economic development goals of the master plan of the city. 3, that the city administration and the planning department prepare a statement to be adopted outlining the city's goals, objectives, and policies relative to the maintenance, preservation, improvement, and development of housing for all persons regardless of income level living within the proposed zone. 4, that the city prepare an ordinance amendment requiring housing inspection before the sale of a unit, new or rehabilitated facility for which a neighborhood enterprise zone certificate is in effect for the purpose of determining compliance with local construction safety codes. 5, that the administration prepare the appropriate notices to the other taxing jurisdictions as required by Public Act 147 of 1992 as amended. And 6, that the administration work with City Council President to set a public hearing date as required by Public Act 147 of 1992. These actions will put in place what we discussed at both the Neighborhood Services Committee as well as City Council on February 22nd.
All right. Do the council members have any comments or questions for Mr. Zorn as it relates to this proposal?
Mr. Chair,
Madam Clerk.
I move that we establish, I support the establishment of a pilot neighborhood enterprise zone program as outlined in the city administrator's resolution.
Support. All right. It's been moved by Councilman Mandelbaum, supported by Councilman Brightwell, that we establish the pilot for the neighborhood enterprise zone program as suggested by the city administrator with all the appropriate recommendations listed in this statement here. Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries.
Thank you. I have no other business this evening. Thank you.
Do we need an ordinance?
No, we have not. There will be an ordinance. This is in preparation of that, correct?
Gotcha.
And it just sets the stage for the next 6 actions to happen. The timing will be tied to what planning commission can get through as well.
Sounds good. Very good. I'm looking to the, do you want to move you to the very end? Only because I'm just asking this because we're going into closed session on your last item, or do we need to, or do you want to just do yours and hold off on that one?
Oh, yeah, the closed session would be deferred, we go in, but do you want to hold off on all mine and do the rest of the agenda, is that what you're saying?
Right.
It's fine.
Right. So I would like to, at this point, move to the planner's portion right here under clerk treasurer planner portion.
Yes, thank you. This item is the Planning Commission 2015 annual report, which was handed out this evening. It inadvertently wasn't included in the packet. An annual report is required to be prepared by the Planning Commission and submitted to the Council through the State Michigan Planning Enabling Act. This is my 6th consecutive report working with the Planning Commission and submitting it to the Council. I just would like to highlight proposed planning initiatives as the Council is considering the budget and other actions coming up this year. But in essence, what we've done is we've given you a report of all the rezoning, site plan, special land uses, and special projects that the Planning Commission has undertaken in 2015 with recommendations for the Council to consider in 2016. First, we made a lot of strides with adopting the capital improvement program last year, and we would like to have that continued on an annual basis. Second, we think it was a good idea, I think it was a year or 2 ago, that we had a joint review session with the City Council so that the Planning Commission can be in line with what the vision and goals of the Council is. I'm going to skip the major project that we're working on is the master plan update. We hope to have that adopted by June of this year, and you allowed us to submit it for public release. And it is our hope to have that finalized and up on the web as well as submitting to all the required entities by Friday of this week. That will allow us, once the master plan is updated, to do a comprehensive overview of the zoning ordinance, to make sure that that is in line with the master plan. One of the significant chapters that we addressed last year was the parking standards. I believe the landscape standards needs a major overhaul, and that will be one of many things that we'll be trying to accomplish this year after the master plan is approved. Also working with some downsizing here in the city and the loss of some positions, we're going to assist the Park and Recreation Commission and the department in updating their 5-year Parks and Recreation Master Plan, which expires in December 2017. This is critical for the city to apply for any additional grants in the future. We need to have that master plan updated, and we'll be assisting in that exercise. Well, one of the goals that we had was accomplished tonight, which was the public art requirement adoption. So hopefully that'll get enacted and we can move forward with that. Our two major redevelopment projects this year, of course, is the City Center parcel across the street, as well as Northland Mall. The City Center, we have gone out through RFP, hired a design development team, and they're in the initial phase of analysis and inventory, as well as their market analysis. With regard to Northland Mall, the committee has received 8 design development proposals. The team is in the process of reviewing those proposals, and will be coming back shortly with a recommendation to City Council. And once a team has been brought on board, they will work on a vision that will be used to seek development. Obviously, the redevelopment ready certification is important to the city, and with the adoption of the master plan and some of the other items, we should be certified ready by the end of June of this year. Last year we submitted a review fee proposal, and I'd like to talk to council at some point about updating some of the fees for site plan review and so forth. It's been almost a decade since those review fees have been updated. Working with the building department and city administration, we would like to continue some improvements with regard to the sign regulations. Important to our analysis on identifying the needs of the city is to conduct a target housing market analysis. Now, one is being prepared with the city center parcel. Another one will be looked at as part of Northland Mall. But we need to continue doing those things so we can identify what various housing options that are marketable, buildable, and sustainable. And then finally, with regard to the zoning ordinance amendments, we'd like to update the zoning ordinance map and do a technical review of the entire cover to cover. So with that, if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them now or at a future study session.
Any questions, Council?
I just ask you to receive and file the report.
Before us. So thank you for that information. So it's always good to have these types of reports to have a plan for the future where we're going. We're not just picking up items and just doing things. We actually have a strategy.
You're good.
With that, we'll move on. We're going to move down to ordinances. We have 3 ordinances to enact this evening. Ordinance 1654, 1655, and 1656. Entertain a motion to enact these ordinances.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Mr.
I
Manuel.
move that we enact ordinance number 1654.
Support.
All right, been moved by Councilman Mandelbaum, supported by Councilwoman Morris to enact ordinance 1654. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I move that we enact ordinance number 1655.
Support.
It's been moved by Councilman Mandelbaum, supported by Councilwoman Morris, that we enact ordinance 1655. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries.
I move that we enact ordinance number 1656.
Support. It's been moved by Councilman Mandelbaum, supported by Councilman Brightwell, that we enact ordinance 1656. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the ordinance is approved. We will now move into the attorney's portion. Ms. Ward.
The first three items are lawsuits that have been brought against either the city or employees of the city. The first one, the state of Xavier Joe versus Community Emergency Medical Service, and others is a lawsuit that named 3 of our public safety dispatchers. The plaintiff is the mother of the deceased child who had an asthma attack, and by the time they got the child to the hospital, he did pass. We're asking that, sorry about that, we're asking council for authority to defend the city in this matter.
Mr. Ferdinand, which
I move that we move A, B, and C to the city attorney to act on behalf of the city of Southfield.
So moved.
All right, Mr. Picasso has moved that we move items A, B, and C into the attorney's item to handle these cases, been supported by Councilwoman Morris. Mr. Mandelbaum.
I just want to, for the record, state that with item B, I'm going to abstain from that one vote because of the different plaintiffs and the situation.
Any other comments? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
On item B.
Item B, one abstention on item B for Councilman Mandelbaum. Okay.
Thank you. Then we'll move to item D, which is the amendment of the resolution establishing the Veterans Commission. This was brought before the committee the whole meeting on February 8th. In essence, what the amendment to the resolution would do is remove the requirement that members of the Veterans Commission be both residents and veterans, and simply establish that there would be preference given to membership on the commission to veterans and residents.
Mr. Chairman, I move item D, in establishing a change in the Veterans Commission's, ordinance.
But it's a resolution.
Resolution, I'm sorry.
It's been properly moved by Councilman Fracassi and seconded by Councilman Brightwell. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Item E is the ordinance amendment to Chapter 102. This was discussed at the study session on February 22nd. In essence, we are deleting the existing Chapter 102, which established the BOCA codes as the basis for our building codes, and in lieu thereof, we would be inserting a new Chapter 102, which will adopt the Michigan Building Code.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we revolve that the proposed ordinance amendment be approved.
Support.
All right, it's been properly moved by Councilman Fracassi and seconded by Councilman Mandelbaum to approve the ordinance amendment for Chapter 102, General Building Regulations. All those in favor, signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Number on that?
1659.
1659,
Correct.
and that be introduced.
Support.
It's been introduced and supported. All those in favor, signify by aye. Any opposed? All right. Ordinance 1659 is approved.
Item F are the amendments to Section 2.155 and Section 2.177 of the code. These amendments were also discussed with council at the study session on February 22nd. In essence, these new sections will establish standards and requirements for landlords who wish to place the responsibility for payment of water and sewer charges on the tenant as opposed to the landlord. And again, on each of these, we would need an ordinance amendment and an ordinance introduction, 2.155 and 2.177.
Also move, Mr. Chairman.
Support.
Properly moved and seconded by Councilman Fracassi and seconded by Councilman Mandelbaum that we approve the ordinance amendments for the water and sewage charges. This is, I didn't give the numbers that you gave for those. You said that we had to.
Well, so really, we need to do these separately because we're going to have a separate ordinance a separate ordinance number for each of them. So for section 2.155, if we could have that approved and then an ordinance number be introduced at that time, and then we'll move to 2.177.
All right, so we're seeking approval for section 2.155. First, we need an ordinance number for that.
1660.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Support.
Is that approving the ordinance?
Approving the ordinance.
And then we'll introduce the next. Okay.
And then we will go to the, can we take the vote? I'm sorry. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. And then, so then we also then need an additional ordinance or approval or introduction of ordinance. That'd be 1660.
Well, we need to approve initially that we will do the amendment to section 2.17, then we would do the ordinance number.
So Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve ordinance for section 2.177.
Support. All right, so we have a motion by Councilwoman Morris, supported by Councilman Wright, to approve section 2.177. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. And the ordinance number will be 1661.
Correct.
All right. We need your approval for it.
Also moved, Mr. Chairman.
Support. All right, it's been moved by Councilman Percassi, supported by Councilman Mandelbaum, that we introduce ordinance 1661. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right.
And then the last item would be request to go into closed session.
Also moved, Mr. Chairman.
Well, we would do that in there by roll call vote, so generally we would just, kind of resume in the study room and we'll take a vote at that time.
Okay, so we don't need to adjourn at this point.
Right, you're not adjourning, we're just going to move it in closed session, and we'll do a motion when we get there.